Here we go.
Let me ask you tonight, do you think Donald Trump is a fascist?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Wow.
And I also believe that the people who know him best on this subject should be trusted. And I do believe, Anderson, that part of this is why, even just this week, I traveled this state with Liz Cheney, former Congress member who was a very high-ranking Republican. She has endorsed me.
Congratulations, butthead.
Her father, the former Vice President of the United States, Dick Cheney, is voting for me.
Shut up, bitch!
No one standing behind the seal of the President of the United States of America should be saying they want to terminate the Constitution of the United States.
I doubt it.
You are fake news.
The American people are tired of women.
Very fake news.
That's disgusting.
Shut up, faggot.
Oh my God, bro!
I can't believe that someone would have so much hate in their heart.
All right, America, go to the YouTube right now.
Skag free, whoever he is.
Dude, Matt straight up sucks.
How dare you?
All right, go. In 5, 4, 3. I can't do it. We'll do it live. Fuck it, we'll do it live.
Hello and welcome to the show. This is Matt Christiansen live for Sunday, October 27th, 2024. Thank you for tuning in. Obviously, things have changed around here. Some things familiar, some things a little bit different. I will explain momentarily what exactly I hope to achieve with this production going forward. But in the news this evening, Trump just left the stage at his Madison Square Garden event in New York City. This after appearing on Joe Rogan's show on Friday night. All of this as polling aggregation shows him with a national lead now. Not a swing state or a battleground state lead, but a national lead in the polls. The Kamala campaign, meanwhile, is scrambling to respond. Joy is over. Now they're going with fear. They're going back to Trump is Hitler again. And of course, he grabs some TNA sometimes too. So good luck with that messaging. Her supporters are apparently screaming in small children's faces as well and faking McDonald's photos of Kamala working at McDonald's in the 80s. It is a desperate time indeed. We'll examine. The Washington Post, meanwhile, makes the historic decision to endorse nobody in this race after endorsing exclusively Democrats since Jimmy Carter was running in 1976. Excuse me, I got a bit of a frog in my throat this evening, but bear with me. And yes, don't worry. It's the bit that never dies. I do have some hoax hate before we end the evening tonight. I may also take some calls. I emphasize that's a big maybe. We'll see how we do on time tonight. Obviously, my estimate for how long the show is going to take may be a little bit off given recent changes. So if I get through all of my items quickly, I'll take some calls. If not, I'll hold off and take some calls on Wednesday. But if you'd like to go hang out in the Discord server, the call-in server, you're welcome to do that. Tim, my assistant, is hanging out in there. He can help you out. And if we have time for calls at the end of the stream tonight, we'll take them. Otherwise, you can just hang out and enjoy the stream and chat with Tim or whoever else might be in there. I suppose I should, I don't know, I haven't figured out. There should be a chat function in there for you guys to chat with each other. But I also know that the feds are scooping all of my Discord communication, so I don't want you guys to be subjected to that. Anyway, we'll figure it out as we go. And of course, I will read your super chats before I'm out of here too. Now for tonight, I'll stick with the Grady Sunday $10 and up rule, but going forward, all of these things are under review and changeable. So, nothing is permanent at this point. And that brings us to the question, well, what exactly is this show? Now, you'll notice I'm calling it Matt Christiansen Live or just MC Live. That's not a placeholder, hopefully. Hopefully that's something more permanent. And that is because after last week's stream and thinking about it this week, I've made the decision that I don't want a permanent co-host. I think not only is it unfair and unrealistic to try to just plug somebody else into that co-host role and say, well, you're blonde now. You sit in the blonde seat, you're blonde. I also think, given recent developments, taking on a full-time co-host can create a lot of complications, a lot of dependencies, as we've seen. That doesn't mean that I want to go alone all the time. My long-term plan, my long-term hope is to have a mix of guests and contributors. Your calls will continue. This is not going to be my voice and my voice alone. It's just I want it under my control is the thinking going forward. Does that create a little bit of risk? Maybe. My thinking, though, is whether that is to my benefit or to my detriment, I want to rise or fall on my own merit. I want to rise because I succeeded, or I want to fall because I failed. I don't want to ride someone else's coattails to the top. I also don't want to be dragged down by somebody else. I want my show to be my show. So that's my plan going forward. And to give you an idea of what to expect in the next couple of weeks, obviously we're at a crazy time for the country and the news. So it may be just me and then interacting with your calls for the next couple of weeks while we get through the election. I just want to get into the groove of doing the show alone. I want some distance from that recent controversy. Again, I don't want to just have someone try to fill a role and plug a hole. And I want to give some space and allow a new show to develop on its own. So up through the election, maybe for the next couple of weeks, it'll probably just be me and the callers, the community. It's not going to be anybody else filling in, at least every show. We'll start mixing some people in after we get this show into its groove. And really, I just want to take it easy. I don't want to force anything to start. I don't want to think like it has to be this structure or that structure. We're just going to break down the news. We're going to have fun. We're going to talk to each other. And hopefully, better days are ahead for our country. Now, yes, a lot of the same style and bits will continue. I want to still do the show intro montages. I've always loved doing those. Obviously, I need to develop. In the old show, I had kind of a permanent 30-second intro. And obviously, I need to develop something else to fit there because none of that stuff makes sense anymore. But I'll work on that. I like doing the show intros. Those are sticking around. As I mentioned, Hoax Hate is sticking around. I will never quit that segment until they quit hoaxing them, which is never. It's never going to stop. So I will carry that on. The much maligned movie review bit. Excuse me. The much maligned movie review bit done for now. One, I think that it takes two people to do that bit at its best. I think some of the best parts of the movie review bit is strong disagreement. You don't really get that with one person, even if you interact with the audience. Number two, the movie review bit was actually a lot of work for not a lot of return. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't do everything thinking like, okay, is this going to generate the most views or is this a wise business decision financially? I'm saying that the movie review bit, in terms of the value it generated for the show, I don't even mean that financially. I just mean like what people look for when they come here to watch or listen. It was several hours a week for me to do. Obviously, I have to watch the movie. I'm not complaining, okay? This is not working in the coal mines, but I got to watch the movie and I got to think critically about it. I got to sit down. It takes me maybe a couple hours to organize my thoughts and write up a movie review on it. And then, of course, there are a bunch of bits that go along with it. We're doing the face swaps. We're doing little production add-ons that take time as well. It was a lot of time for distraction content. And I think it'd be best if I focus on core content, at least for the time being. So if you loved or hated my movie reviews, well, thank you for sticking around for 175 or so of them. That's the other reason I think it's appropriate to move on for now. The original premise of the movie review bit was that I haven't seen a whole bunch of movies that I should have seen by now. And now I've watched 175 of them and reviewed them formally, and anybody can go read them whenever they want when I archive them on my site. So moving on from that bit, although it had a good run, and I appreciate everybody who enjoyed or hated that segment. Also, there's a logistical question of where to find the show. Now, if you watch the show on a video platform, it's not going anywhere. And actually, I hope it's not going anywhere at all. But it'll be on my YouTube channel. It'll be on my Rumble channel. It'll be on my X account, Odyssey, BitChute, DLive, all those places. If you listen to the show, I've not, as in a podcast audio platform, I've not yet made the change from the old show into this show. And that is my hope. I don't want to just start a new podcast feed because that can be confusing. I would rather just convert the existing podcast feed into this podcast feed. If you don't want to listen to it anymore, of course, you're welcome to head on out, but I don't want to make more work for people who choose to stick around. So hopefully I'll be able to update that feed. I plan to do that tonight or tomorrow. And what used to be the Matt and Blonde Show feed will just be the MC Live feed. So stand by for that. Now, as far as the aesthetic, now you may notice the artwork is gone, obviously. I opted for, tonight I opted for this spooky moon look. And nothing is permanent. What I want to do is just kind of have a mix of interesting backgrounds and aesthetic, and not necessarily like a permanent piece of art. So that's what I'm thinking. If you hate the look tonight, don't worry, stick around for Wednesday or Sunday. You can also hate that look. But I'm trying to keep things visually interesting. Nothing is permanent, I emphasize. Also, the logistical question of, how this project will sustain. And if you would like to support my channel, if you would like to support this new endeavor, if you'd like to keep the show running, of course, the best way to do that is by supporting the show. And really, it's all just one thing now. It's all just my content. There's no distinction between the show and my channel and my videos. It's all my content. And I've sustained this long through audience support, and I hope I can sustain longer through audience support. So if you'd like to help me out, head on over to the support page on my website. It's linked in the description. mattchristiansenmedia.com/support. You can support monthly or one time for as little as $1. And if you choose to support in higher amounts, there are additional perks like video chats with me, merchandise, all of those things linked in the description if you can't find the link. mattchristiansenmedia.com/support. Now there's the question of what do I plan to do with the support? What am I trying to do? Now, as I mentioned, one is sustain. It's a difficult fight out there. A lot of forces are, make it hard for people to find this show or make it hard to do this show. So that's point one. I want to sustain the project. I want to make sure I'm able to keep making it. But I do want to expand in ways that make it easier to make the show and to make the show better. So I've already hired my assistant, Tim, into an expanded role that will make it easier for me. He's going to do things like wrangling guests for me, just kind of desk work tasks that I don't necessarily want to do or don't enjoy doing. But if someone picks them up for me, it makes my work a lot more efficient. So Tim's already on board to help me out with that. Of course, the more I can pay Tim, the more I can ask him to do, which is always beneficial. For my recurring contributors, and again, that's my aim. Like, there will be guest appearances where guests want to talk about a particular story or they're here because of a particular reason. But I do want people coming on to just be a personality and kind of banter with me and have fun. I would like to make sure those people are paid for their time. If you're coming to work for me on a regular basis, I want to make sure you're paid. So support for the show helps me do that. As I mentioned, there are graphic designers that I had working on the old show. I want to make sure they're paid, and I'd like to hire them on to work for my new look and my new operation. Bottom line, when I can hire more help and buy more tools, I can make a bigger, better show. So if you'd like to help me do that, I greatly appreciate it. But that's about all the shilling you're going to hear from me, because I really believe, outside of, soap and razors and all the other stuff. But don't worry, I'm skipping that tonight. But, bottom line, I believe the way that you earn support for your show is by making a good show. So don't worry, I'm not going to spend 15 minutes shilling every episode. And in closing, leaving last week behind and moving on into a new production, I just want to emphasize a couple things I learned. Philosophical lessons, wisdom that I'm taking away from it, and I hope you might too. I am convinced after this week of desk work and other inconveniences that I've just navigated, and I appreciate your patience with my absence from normal production. It was not a week off. It was putting out fires to make sure that my content can continue given new circumstances. But after that week, I am 100% sure I am on the right path. Yes, there are challenges. Yes, there's negativity. But as I said last Sunday, I believe God is presenting this path to me for a reason, including the challenges on that path. I mentioned during the tenant debacle that the path revealed itself to me in my email inbox. And that sounds very odd to say, but what I meant by that, and you can go back and listen either on the Sunday stream after it happened, sometime this first Sunday after September 4th, or in my my Bible study podcast as well, which that episode was September 6th, I believe. But I mentioned that the path had revealed itself to me, and I openly declared myself a follower of Christ at that point, because when that debacle happened, my email inbox was filled with two different things. Dozens of emails from supporters who were wishing me well and giving me encouragement to get through a tough time, near universally with prayer reference to God and reference to Jesus Christ. On the other side, there were the demon people, hoping that I have to watch my entire family die, and then I'm killed too. Just the worst things you've ever read that could possibly be said about you, sent from people who don't know you, don't care, couldn't care less about you other than they perceive you to be a political enemy. So they're wishing the parade of horribles upon you. And that's the time I decided to commit to the path, because the path had revealed itself to me. And I know what team I'm on. I know what values I should pursue. Do I want to get distracted by the demon people, or do I want to join the followers of Christ who are wishing me well? I made the choice at that time. Why do I bring that up again? Because this episode was something much like that, although not quite the same. But I responded to probably 400 or 500 emails this week. And I read those and respond to them because my connection with my audience is everything to me. Not just in terms of how my business sustains, but because if people take the time to listen to my show and sit down and type an email about how much they value that production, or how they're encouraging me, or how they believe in me to make it past this, obviously the least I can do for them is a few minutes of acknowledgement and thanks. And so it's very important for me to get through those. So I spent a lot of this week doing that. And again, almost invariably, hundreds of people wishing me well with reference to God, with reference to prayer, with reference to Christ, not as though the path is presenting itself to me. It is. It's not as though. That's what's happening. That's why I'm convinced. That's why I'm confident. There were a few. This time the demon people were more polite. There were very few of them. They weren't really that demonic as much as they were last time. And just so I am 100% clear, I am not accusing Blonde or anybody who is decidedly they think they're on Blonde's side of this dispute, whatever. I'm not saying those are demon people or something. I'm not at all. I have nothing but well-wishing for everybody in this scenario. And I didn't have people making weird hope for my graphic demise or something like that. I'm just saying the community that has presented itself to me is very clear in its values, and I intend to pursue those values. And that's why I'm 100% confident that I'm on the right path here. And the other thing I'll say is that what was otherwise an incredibly stressful week was manageable because of my family, because of my wife's encouragement, because of my parents' help with our children, and because of my boys' innocent happiness, regardless of whatever's going on in the world. And I say this as someone who used to be doubtful about whether I wanted to build family or not. I can say with absolute certainty on the other side of now building a family, if you aren't aiming your life toward family, if you aren't aiming your life toward the construction of it, toward the maintenance of it, toward the cultivation of family, you're doing it wrong. And I say that to my former self. I'm not looking at you out there and saying you suck. I say that to my former self, like my early to mid 20s self. I was doing it wrong until about 6 years ago, because family makes the best times better and the worst times better. Family makes you more responsible. Family challenges you to be the best version of yourself. So if you wonder whether family is for you, it is. I promise you it is. Stay committed to it no matter how tough it may seem. The best day to try to start building a family, if you haven't done that yet, is today. And I mean as simple as like trying to date for the right reasons. Don't date for hookups. Date for someone who has that same vision for the future, building a family. I promise you, it matters more than anything in this world. 100% endorsement, 0 regrets. So with that, let's get on with the show. Now, I promised that old bits would continue, and they will. And it's not just hoax hate crimes that I'll follow, but it's hilarious names that'll get you banned too. Of course, recall my favorite NFL prospect, Diego Fagot, who has struggled to stay on an NFL roster in recent years, but remains vigilant against his challenges. Or there's star high school linebacker. Now he's at Eastern Michigan University, Noah Kinzinger. My sources say he's playing well in his freshman year, though Noah says his name is pronounced Kinzinger. This is apparently the one I in the English language that makes a long A sound when you read it. but that's what he's going with. Well, now we have a new prospect. He plays for the appropriately named Pittsburgh State Gorillas football team. Now, I can't believe that the team name and the mascot hasn't been banned for racism yet, but they're still the Gorillas. And Redskins, that's banned. Gorillas are fine. Well, here is a recent touchdown by star Pittsburgh State Gorillas fullback and tight end Luke Niggeman.
4th and 2. Big conversion. Niggeman takes off to his left. Nobody in front of him. Touchdown, Gorillas. Luke Niggeman rushes it in, his 3rd carry of the game.
And that is just one for this Niggeman. In 7 games this season, Luke Niggeman has 15 carries for 75 yards and 4 TDs. My sources say that Pittsburgh State Gorillas play-by-play guy still has his job. We'll see how long that lasts. And we'll see if Luke Niggeman can ascend to get some poor NFL announcer fired someday. Godspeed, sir. Now, it's not just football either. An emailer made me aware of Utah Democrat congressional candidate Katrina Fallick-Wang. What kind of Wang is it? It's a phallic Wang. Isn't that redundant? Well, it would seem so until you realize you have to clarify what kind of Wang, because Katrina Fallick-Wang is not necessarily a man or a woman. Fallick-Wang is a queer, non-binary person running for Congress with a very dick-like dick, apparently. Or that's what the name suggests. What kind of dick? A dicky dick. What kind of Wang? A phallic Wang. So I had to hear this person speak because I thought, is this like Kaniga and Kanega? Is it not phallic Wang? Is it something else? So I went to Phallic Wang's Instagram page here. I don't know what her pronouns are. I'm going to use she because it's clearly a woman. Here she is speaking recently to clarify her position on late-term abortion.
Hi, this is Katrina Fallick-Wang. I wanted to jump on really quick to clarify a statement. I was asked about restrictions for laws on late-term abortions. This is an issue that is unfortunately difficult to address in quick sound bites. I do not believe that the federal government should be making laws and decisions around healthcare. And abortion is healthcare. It is a medical procedure.
Now, I do appreciate nuance and detail and accuracy. However, I don't know that late-term abortion is actually that difficult to summarize quickly. It's bad. It's bad because it is the murder of an innocent child. So we could get into the details of that, into the nuance of a difficult issue. No, it's killing an innocent kid. That's why it's bad. And it's healthcare. It's a medical procedure. For whom? For the kid that you're killing? On a side note, there was a gubernatorial race here in Montana, and it's going to go Democrat. It doesn't really matter. But they were debating abortion. And the Democrat candidate was opposing a proposed constitutional amendment in Montana to protect abortion through the 2nd trimester up to the 3rd trimester. And the Democrat candidate said with a straight face that he opposes, or no, he supports the protection of the so-called abortion right because Montana is a live and let live state. He said this with a straight face. Now, we have to make sure that there's a constitutional right to abortion in the state of Montana because Montana is a live and let live state. Same question. For whom? Who's living in this situation? Not the kid that you're killing. It's a medical procedure. For whom? Not the kid. But even if we take Katrina Fallick-Wang's point that it's a medical procedure for mom, okay, medically necessary abortion, as in to save the life of the mother, is incredibly rare, almost never. But pretty much every pro-life person I know would agree to a life of the mother exception. Not necessarily health of the mother, which they just say, if mom feels like it's going to impact her mental health, kill the kid. but life of the mother. Every pro-life person I know favors that exception. So do we agree? Okay, it's a medical procedure in very rare instances in which mom's life is threatened. We agree on that exception. Done deal? No, actually, I want it always. I want it for any reason, because late-term abortion is a very difficult, nuanced issue that we don't want to oversimplify. Anyway, back to the point. If you're either worried or excited about Katrina Fallick-Wang's non-binary Fallick-Wang appearing in Congress, don't get your hopes up or don't be discouraged because it's not happening. She is running against, this is Utah's 4th district. She's running against Republican incumbent Burgess Owens in the Utah, it's a district in Utah, south of Salt Lake is where this is. There's not much polling because the race is already over. Owens leads by 30 points in polling from last month. So good luck to Fallick-Wang and her nuanced late-term abortions. Her prospect this election cycle is not good. Now, before we get into all the major presidential politics, this happened earlier this week. Kind of late to this news, I know, but I can't ignore it. If I wasn't putting out fires all week long, I would have talked about this sooner, because it is always hilarious to take lectures about gun safety from gun-grabbing Democrats who actually have no concept of gun safety. This time, see Democrat Senate candidate in Missouri, Luke Kunce. Kind of got to be careful with that name, too. Anyway, Luke Kunce, he's running against Josh Hawley in a race, likewise, he's not going to win. Luke Kunce is apparently a Marine Corps vet, so it is a little surprising to see this level of negligence or irresponsibility on display. Of course, former Congressman Adam Kinzinger, who's also involved in this incident, he's an Air National Guard vet. So you have 2 veterans involved here. This happened, or at least it was announced on Tuesday night. Kunce tweets out, "Hey, we just had a great day at the range. Adam Kinzinger was there. A friendly reminder, you might want to bring a first aid kit when you go to the range because you never know what's going to happen." This was like campaign event. There were a bunch of union workers there, campaign photo op purposes. And you've got a reporter there. And apparently this reporter named Ryan, I don't know for whom he writes, what his deal is, but he took what they're describing as shrapnel. It's some sort of fragment or projectile ricocheted presumably off the steel targets they're shooting with what is probably a 5.56 or 2.23 AR. They're shooting steel from about 10 yards away with rifle rounds is what this appears to be. And then, well, it's a good thing we had our first aid kit because there was a little bit of splash damage, but we were able to take care of him. And apparently they gave this reporter the full-on tourniquet to make sure his gauze sticks to his flesh wound on his arm. And it's not just the shooting steel with a rifle at that range that is tremendously irresponsible. You got Kinzinger doing it with his safety. I don't know if they're sunglasses or safety glasses, whatever. The point is, with no eye protection, shooting steel at that distance, probably going to cause you some potential eye damage if you do it long enough. So, the only other thing I will say is a congratulations to these men of honor in such difficult circumstances, because as one reply notes on Twitter, that dude who took the shrapnel or the ricocheted fragment, whatever it was, the guy who got the arm injury, he has now seen more combat than Tim Walz. So congratulations to him. Get him an award for valor. All right. Let's get into presidential politics, because we're now, of course, just a week and a day away from Election Day, even though everybody's already voting in a lot of these states. As I'll get to, the signs there, even in the early voting, not great for Kamala. But the signs aren't great for Kamala anywhere. But I assume that Democrats have long established fortification plans against such possibilities. So stand by for November 6th to find out. I think the reasons for encouragement that I'm about to go through obviously have to be qualified with. In no way is this discouragement from making sure you get your vote in. If you're the sort of person who believes in that, I know not everybody does, but hey, if you want to make a difference, if you care about not having a communist in the Oval Office, I think it's the lowest effort gesture that could potentially shape the future in significant ways. Anyway, Whatever your preferred course of action is, I'm not trying to give the impression that this is some slam dunk thing, obviously. It is not. It's just that the momentum and the trajectory appears to be pretty solidly against Kamala Harris at the moment. And I say that because this is a historic moment for Trump's political career. According to the Real Clear Politics polling aggregation, Trump has now moved into a lead in the average of national polls. That is a first in his entire career. He has never done that since he entered presidential politics in 2015. Aggregated national lead in polling. And yes, you look at this breakdown in Real Clear Politics, it's a 0.1% lead, the slimmest possible. Statistically meaningless given the margin of error. But what is important about this, consider where the race was in the last two election cycles. At this point, October 27th in 2020, Joe Biden had almost a 7.5 lead in the same aggregated polling from Real Clear Politics. October 27th, 2016, Hillary Clinton had a 5.5 point lead. So if Kamala can't push this popular support, this popular vote up into like the +5 range, those were close elections. This election may not be similarly close. Again, with the caveat that there are probably a few tricks up the Democrat Party sleeve. But then you get into the battlegrounds, and it actually looks even worse as of this moment. Good for Trump, bad for Kamala. In Arizona, Nevada, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Georgia, Real Clear Politics polling average shows Trump with a slim lead in all of them. Trump and Kamala were dead even in these states at the start of the month. Trump, in the aggregation of all of them, has now pushed a percentage point in his direction. Again, margin of error, but with all states trending that way. It's not like, oh, look, he's making ground in Arizona and he's falling a little bit behind in Pennsylvania. They're all trending that way. That means Kamala has some pretty big problems here. I mentioned there's a surge in early voting. And in particular, it's a surge in Republican early voting compared to prior years. As of Thursday, over 30 million people had already voted. Records were broken in Georgia and North Carolina. In Arizona, Nevada, and North Carolina, Republican early voting has exceeded Democrats. In Michigan, early voting has also surged, but Michigan doesn't provide us with party affiliation data, so we don't necessarily know who's voting. Early turnout is also massive in Wisconsin. Why does this matter? Well, Democrats are supposed to crush in early voting. That is usually how it goes. Democrats do well in the early vote. Republicans tend to vote on election day. So the question is, what are we seeing here? Is this simply Republicans voting earlier than they normally do? As in, we're just kind of moving votes that would be here over there? Or is this evidence of newfound Republican enthusiasm, votes that maybe weren't present in prior elections that are present now? We're going to have to wait to find out the answers to that question. But there really is no world in which that's good news for Kamala and Democrats, because at best it's just neutral. It's just changing votes from Republicans that would have previously happened on election day. Now they're happening earlier, but it's 1-to-1 and it doesn't really matter. That's just neutral news. That's not good or bad news. That's her best case scenario. Worst case, this does represent a big shift in Republican votes. And that, of course, is a very bad sign for Kamala and Democrats. So that brings us to what just concluded about an hour ago. Trump had his rally at Madison Square Garden in Manhattan, in New York City, of course. And I don't know what the official capacity was. The venue's something like 20,000 people. Maybe there were more. I don't know. A lot of people were there, of course, in the heart of enemy territory. But according to Hillary Clinton, Madison Square Garden was selected because Trump and his supporters are trying to honor a 1939 Nazi rally that happened there.
One other thing that you'll see next week, Caitlin, is Trump actually reenacting the Madison Square Garden rally in 1939. I write about this in my book. President Franklin Roosevelt was appalled that neo-Nazis, fascists in America were lining up to essentially pledge their support for the kind of government that they were seeing in Germany.
Also, little known fact, the New York Rangers and the New York Knicks play at Madison Square Garden to honor Nazis from the 1930s. Every concert held at Madison Square Garden is done to honor Nazis from the 1930s. No, it's not because it's an iconic New York City venue, and Trump is, of course, an iconic New York City businessman. It's not because it's a show of confidence to hold a big rally where Kamala and Democrats should dominate, and they're still going to win the state. I know there's talk of Trump. They were talking about maybe Trump wins New York. That would be incredible if it happens. In all likelihood, it's not. But still, you can go into enemy territory and attract a big crowd. That is a show of confidence to the other party and to the other campaign. No, it's none of that. It's because 85 years ago, some Nazis gathered there, even though they didn't actually gather there. Madison Square Garden has been a different venue over time. So the site that this actually happened, this 1939 Nazi rally, and I need to read more about this because anytime someone throws around the term Nazi these days, what are we talking about? I read the Wikipedia here and it says there were swastikas at the event, but then it describes people who really wanted to make sure the U.S. didn't enter the war. And to me, that sounds familiar with a lot of modern politics. Oh, you disagree with the official stance, the official narrative? Well, you're a Nazi. I'm not saying that's for sure what happened in 1939. I'm just saying I haven't read the history of that. And anytime someone makes the claim that it was definitely Nazis, I have questions these days. But anyway, even if it was all a bunch of Hitler fans, it wasn't even on the site. Not that that matters. You can do different things on the same site, but it was different. Madison Square Garden at the time was a different place than it is now. It's about a mile away. The spot where this Nazi rally in 1939 happened, that's now One Worldwide Plaza. And if you want to talk about how this is like a stupid move for Trump, send Kamala to Wyoming. Send Kamala to West Virginia. Can she have an impressive rally in enemy territory in the way Trump just did? I doubt it, but I'd like to see her try. It'd be very entertaining. I don't think she's going to try that. The other reason it might be a Nazi rally, though, is because apparently comedians made mean jokes at this Nazi rally. So the whole event was star-studded. You know, I mean, Democrats usually roll out the celebrities. This event had its fair share of celebrities. I saw Hulk Hogan. I saw Dana White. Elon Musk was there. Tucker Carlson was there. I mean, I guess he's not a celebrity in the traditional sense. I'm just saying big names were present at this Madison Square Garden rally this evening. And one of those big names was comedian Tony Hinchcliffe. And so he speaks at this Trump rally, and he made a joke about Puerto Rico. And AOC and Tim Walz are live stream reacting to this event, and they're very offended by it. Now, the comedian's voice is rather soft, but you'll hear AOC and Tim Walz respond.
You know, there's a lot going on. Like, I don't know if you guys know this, but there's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah. I think it's called Puerto Rico.
So he made a joke. I don't know if you guys know, there's a floating island of garbage in the ocean right now. It's called Puerto Rico, and they get all mad about it.
Okay. All right. Okay. We're getting there. No.
Who is that jackwad? Who is that guy?
Actually, I think that's Tony Hinchcliffe, which is super disappointing. I mean, he's a comedian. I don't follow this
Trump, this issue
very
with Puerto
closely,
Rico
but
again. I saw it. This was when he went down after Helene, the horrific hurricane, people there, everybody coming together. We sent helicopters down from Minnesota and personnel. You know, this is how you do this during this. And in the first hours, Trump complaining about the response. Does anybody
blah, blah, blah. Okay, so there, Tim Walz, just to give you an idea of what's going on here. You have one major party candidate hosting a high energy event in hostile territory, and the vice presidential candidate for the opposing ticket is not out on the campaign, is not hosting an equally high energy event of his own. He's at home streaming with AOC. He's apparently doing a me impression. Okay. He's sitting around like playing Xbox with a Minnesota hat on, live stream reacting to the other candidate. This is the guy who's supposed to be busy. This is the guy who's supposed to be inspiring people to vote for his ticket. He's sitting around playing Xbox and drinking Diet Mountain Dew. If he really wants to do the me impression, it's got to be a Coke Zero. That would complete the look. I think I have this area of the internet cornered, Mr. Walls. You can move along to whatever it is you're supposed to be doing. And it's been a long time since I've played Call of Duty. Obviously, that's how my YouTube channel started. If Tim Walls would like to 1v1 me on Rust, I will drop whatever I'm doing. I will happily host that stream because I don't like when my bit is stolen in this way. I started this. He's taking it. But that brings us to Trump on Joe Rogan. And Trump's appearance at Madison Square Garden is fresh off his appearance on Joe Rogan on Friday. The episode went live Friday night. And in a way, this episode of Joe Rogan is a historic moment of its own, at least when you think about it in terms of its pop culture collision. There is a top comment. Let me see if I can find. Oh yeah, it's this one. Top comment on the stream or on the episode of Joe Rogan's show that reads, imagine telling someone 15 years ago that the host of Fear Factor and the host of The Apprentice talking to each other about a YouTube video would be the most important political event of 2024. And to that point, earlier this afternoon, I should refresh here. Well, I'll just leave. Right about now, I just loaded up this page. The episode of Joe Rogan's show with Trump is over 31 million views with over 1.5 million likes. And these are numbers multiples higher than any mainstream media source could ever hope to achieve. Even when they host the debates, I went and looked, ABC and the vice presidential debate, the presidential debate, Trump and Kamala Harris, that had, it's a month ago, that has 14 million views and 150,000 likes. So Trump appearing on Joe Rogan is crushing the debate itself on ABC News. Kamala's appearance, meanwhile, on the Call Her Daddy podcast, which I didn't watch because nobody else did, that has just 685,000 views after 2 weeks. Brings us to my general thoughts about this Joe Rogan appearance that Trump just did. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't mean this as any kind of insult or to. I actually thought it was boring. I listened to the whole thing on Friday night while I was getting some work done. I thought it was boring. But I don't say that to criticize necessarily because I realize that I'm not the intended audience for this production. Okay, I'm the sort of person who follows politics closely. I am decidedly in Trump's corner. There is effectively nothing you could say to move me out of that unless, I don't know. I don't know what would have to happen. But the point is I'm not really persuadable. I'm not the guy who's going to potentially have his mind changed by this production. So it's not really for me. They talk about, UFC and they talk about aliens and sort of side stuff that's not strictly relevant to the presidential campaign. If it's not for me, who is this for and what is the purpose of it? Well, the purpose of it is to counter exactly what we've just watched for the last week or so. Oh, Trump's a Nazi. We have nothing left. We're going to try that. Trump's a Nazi. Okay, if you're the sort of person who is unhappy with the direction of the country, which is most people, you see that you have less money, or at least the money you do have buys less. You see your country being invaded. You see the money you do have being taken from you to go to foreign wars, and you're frustrated by all that. Yet you still think that Trump is like a very bad guy with very bad ideas, and you would never listen to him, or at least I shouldn't say never listen to him, because obviously if you're going to turn on this show, you would listen to him to some extent. But I guess what I'm saying is you've allowed your perception of Trump to be shaped by the media's presentation of him rather than listening to the guy. If you're at all available to him, even 10% available, and you go listen to what is just a normal guy conversation about all sorts of topics, some of them politically significant, some of them just off the wall stuff like, do you think aliens exist? It's going to do a lot of damage to the Trump is a Nazi, Trump is going to be a dictator, Trump is a unique evil that the world has never seen before. That sort of narrative is going to be undone, whether you agree with his politics or not. It's really about just getting to see the guy as he exists without some filter applied by some media agent who hates him. So in that respect, I think that the appearance on Rogan was a smart and successful move, even if it's not necessarily my preferred entertainment for the evening. And I'm not going to go through the whole thing. If you're interested in it, just go watch it. You don't have to rely on my breakdown of it. Just go listen to them talk. But there were a few items from the episode that I think are worthy of discussion. And one of those is just Joe and Trump going back and forth on what is the Trump political phenomenon, as in how is it and why is it that Trump has ascended to become such a popular political figure. And Trump made some commentary about like, well, I don't know why the media, why they've helped me campaign in so many ways, why they've amplified my message for all these years. And Joe Rogan said, well, I do. It's because you often say some wild shit.
So I always got more publicity than other people. And it wasn't like I was trying. In fact, I don't know exactly why. Maybe you can tell me why.
Oh, I could definitely tell you. You said a lot of wild shit.
Maybe. Maybe
he said a lot of wild shit, and then CNN, in all their brilliance, by highlighting your wild shit, made you much more popular.
Yeah.
They boosted you in the polls because people were tired of someone talking in this bullshit, pre-prepared politician lingo. One of the beautiful things about you is that you freeball. Like, you get out and you do these huge events, and you're just talking.
Yeah, I think that's an accurate diagnosis. The Trump phenomenon is, I don't know if it's less about, but it's at least equal parts the personality to the politics. Obviously, I think his policy positions matter. I think his policy positions are closer to what's going to make this country successful and prosperous. But what people appreciate about the guy is they feel like they're listening to a real person, an authentic person, not somebody who's rehearsed, not somebody who's scripted, not somebody who's programmed or robotic. So for a lot of people, it's just about Trump, the guy. And the policies are important, but the guy is just as important. And I think a lot of that explains his rise. Now, to the point of speaking openly and candidly, even if sometimes strangely, when the two discussed windmills and energy, Trump made what was the viral moment of the interview. Trump was explaining how offshore windmill vibrations drive the whales crazy. And Trump wishes he could be a whale psychiatrist to help them.
What is happening with the whales? I've read about this.
Well, they say that the wind drives them crazy. You know, it's a vibration because you have those, those things that 50-story buildings, some of them.
Right, and they're 50. Super sensitive to vibrations.
They have those,
sounds.
The wind is rushing, the things are blowing, it's a vibration, and it makes noise. You know what it is? I want to be a whale psychiatrist. It drives the whales freaking crazy. And something happens with them.
So cue your favorite artist depiction of whale psychiatrist Trump. First, Trump saved the geese and the cats in Springfield. Now he's saving the whales. But the claim is already fact-checked. The New York Times got to it back in February. So I guess Trump has been saying this for a while. It's the first time I've heard it. But no, windmills do not drive the whales crazy. And I thought they probably had some expert to come in here and correct the record, but they just say this is false. There's no evidence for that. Okay. I mean, I don't, is that a fact check, or is that just saying provide evidence, please? Anyway, thank you, New York Times, for being on top of it and correcting self-proclaimed whale psychiatrist Donald Trump. I thought the most interesting thing in this entire 3-hour exchange, well, there were a couple. One, Trump was challenged on what he thinks his biggest mistake was, and he talked about hiring the wrong people and having the wrong people advise him, which I think is fine. There is a problem there, though, because if you're selecting these people and they turn out to be bad, it's fair and important to question why you have selected bad people. Obviously, that would be a concern going into a second term of his if that's what happens. But I appreciated the conversation on that. And I also liked the discussion that was about tariffs and the income tax. Now, Trump has floated the idea of abolishing the income tax in favor of tariffs, as in you don't pay the government on money that you earn from working. Instead, the government gets its revenue from taxes on goods imported from foreign countries. And that's how the government generates its revenue, which is largely the way the country operated before the early 1900s and the ratification of the 16th Amendment. So here was the exchange between Trump and Rogan on that topic.
Did you just float out the idea of getting rid of income taxes and replacing it with tariffs?
Well, okay.
Were you serious about that?
Yeah, sure. But why not? Because our country was the richest relatively in the 1880s and 1890s. A president who was assassinated named McKinley, He was the tariff king. He spoke beautifully of tariffs. His language was really beautiful. We will not allow the enemy to come in and take our jobs and take our factories and take our workers and take our families unless they pay a big price. And the big price is tariffs. And he'd speak like that, but he was right. And then around in the early 1900s, they switched over stupidly to, frankly, an income tax. And you know why? Because countries were putting a lot of pressure on America. We don't want to pay tariffs. Please don't. Believe me, they control our politicians.
So, of course, I don't expect that to happen once Congress got the ability to take what we earn through the income tax. They probably will never give that up unless they are forced to give that up through other means. But even if it won't happen by act of Congress, I do appreciate pushing Americans to understand there is no reason that the government has to have its hand in the cookie jar of your earnings, that the government has to take money from your paycheck in this way. Oh, but how would the government function? Well, we could do it by taxing imports from other countries. Oh, but won't we still pay that tax that tax still? Yes, costs will be passed off to the American consumer. But the point is, would you rather have a tax structure where you have no choice? You earn $1, the government has its hand in that dollar, or you at least have some discretion, some choice in the goods that you consume. And at least in theory, you could avoid some of those tariffed goods and choose not to participate in that tax because you don't have to consume those goods. Now, I know it's not perfect. In the ideal world, you'd have open access to these products, and you would decide, I guess, which one is more suitable for your consumption or which product you find to be superior. My point is, if the federal government has any legitimacy or any legitimate reason to exist at all, which I know is kind of a debatable point at this point in history, if it has to get its money from somewhere, a consumption tax that you have some discretion in participation in or not is, of course, preferable to the government just scooping money that you earn and you having no choice in the matter. And the counter to that is, well, do you think that could pay for all the entire federal budget? No, I do not. But the point is that the federal government was limited and defined in scope constitutionally, so it should have limited and defined fundraising mechanisms. Does that mean massive cutbacks to most of the crap that the federal government does? Yes, it does, because the federal government is not your dad. The federal government is simply a representation of the people of the United States internationally and a peacekeeper among the states and a maintainer and manager of the military, and that's about it. We don't need the federal government giving us stuff, so we don't need tax structures for the federal government to take stuff from us. That was the original design. Of course, we've strayed a long way from it, but I still appreciated the conversation between them on that theme. Now, there was one other exchange that I wanted to highlight, which was Trump making fun of Kamala and saying there's no way that Kamala would ever appear on Joe Rogan's show, even though Joe Rogan says he would love to host Kamala and he would talk to her in good faith.
Can you imagine Kamala doing this show?
I could imagine her doing this show.
She'd be laying on the floor.
She was supposed to do it, and she might still do it, and I hope she does.
She's not going to do it.
I will talk to her like a human being. I will try to have a conversation with her. If she did this kind of an
interview with you, I hope she does, because it would be a mess. She'd be laying on the floor comatose. You'd be saying, call in the medics.
I think we'd have a fine conversation. I think I'd be able to talk to her. I wouldn't try to interview her. I'd just try to have a conversation with her and hopefully get to know her as a human being. That was my goal, having her on.
Now, what Trump doesn't know, and Joe didn't tell him, is that Kamala episode is already recorded, and I have obtained exclusive footage, an exclusive clip from that Joe Rogan Kamala episode. So here it is, Kamala Harris on Joe Rogan, set for release this week.
Joe, Donald Trump is literally Adolf Hitler.
You really think that? I don't know. I had him on, and it didn't feel like I was talking to Hitler.
He's having a rally at Madison Square Garden that is just like the Nazi rally that happened there in 1939. I can't believe I'm sitting in the same chair Hitler sat in. He's basically like one of those Russian nesting dolls where he's the big one, and then inside him is Mussolini, and inside that one is Hitler, and inside that one is Pol Pot, and inside that one is Putin, and inside that one is Kim Jong-il.
So is that your platform now? Basically just he's Hitler until Election Day?
That and joy.
Hitler and joy.
And no income tax. I just made that up right here.
Do you have any original ideas?
I thought the nesting doll thing was pretty good.
Obvious parody, but well-written parody. That clip is from Danny Palushuk. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, on X. Actually, the nesting doll bit there would be one of Kamala's best lines if she used it. So the Kamala campaign, I think they should hire this guy because I think his Kamala messaging is better than theirs. They'd be smart to do it. But the question remains, will Kamala go on Joe Rogan's show? Given the desperation and the massive publicity for Trump, they may have some incentive or even necessity to do it. But of course, asking Kamala to speak unscripted for a few hours is indeed a very dangerous game. Now, Joe Rogan says he's been talking to Kamala's people for weeks. They have refused. It would appear that Kamala was in discussions. And then, in fairness, I guess Joe Rogan invited Trump on and Trump said yes. And now Kamala has declined. So Kamala apparently just fumbled a big opportunity, handed it right off to Trump. As of Thursday, Kamala's people were saying officially no to Joe Rogan. Her spokesman, Ian Sams, said on MSNBC that the campaign, quote, talked with Rogan and his team about the podcast. Unfortunately, it isn't going to work out right now because of the scheduling of this period of the campaign. Now, it's very hard to imagine that the Call Her Daddy podcast was a good use of time and Joe Rogan is not. Or how about Tim Walz? Can he spare an Xbox break with, can he take a break from Xbox with AOC to come talk to Joe Rogan about, I don't know, men's issues or something? Can we do that? No, it would be an unwise use of their time, apparently. But there maybe will be some pressure. Daily Mail is following social media users urging Kamala to go on Joe Rogan's show. I've not seen a major Democrat make the same call. You know, this article is really just summarizing people's social media posts, so take that with a grain of salt. I'm not sure if Democratic strategists or high-level party officials are making the same call, but perhaps there will be some pressure. But if Kamala's people want numbers and if they want male votes, they're really struggling for them, as we'll get to later. They now have a new, just disgusting strategy to attract the male vote. Vote for us or else you won't be able to watch porn anymore. They're going with that. If you're looking to attract male votes, that's the place to go. I assume the Kamala campaign is worried that they'd lose votes by doing this. They're probably right, I guess. So I wouldn't expect Kamala to do it, but it would be entertaining to watch. Right at the top of the hour here, that is a good time for a break. Of course, I got to get into updates from the Kamala campaign. There's a whole lot going on that side of this election cycle too. Before I do that, I'll get into your super chats and catch up with you guys that way. Now, as you can see, I still kind of plan the same super chat format, maybe like a halfway through break, and then I'll get to the rest of them at the end of the show. I'm trying to keep things familiar but updated, so bear with me as the new format develops. But I'm going to start over on Rumble, talk to our people over on Rumble, and iBot's over there with no note. He has no thoughts about all the changes recently. Thank you, iBot.
We love you. You're very special.
Yakko, 1977. I don't normally listen to Rogan other than clips I catch online, but I did listen to his interview with Trump. In my opinion, it really normalized Trump. Yeah, it's something I suspect Kamala is incapable of doing. And yeah, like I said, even though to me, I was like, I don't know if this is worth my time to listen to, frankly. It's not for me. It's for that person who's been told a whole series of things about Trump, but actually cares to investigate for himself or herself, and they're going to see, he cares about the whales just like you do. Thank you, Yakko. Darren will matter. Matt, I'm behind any decision you make. Just take good advantage of opportunities as they present themselves. Well, thank you. I certainly want to do that. My aim for this show is not to isolate myself in this tiny little silo. It's to make sure that I just want to be in ownership of my production. That's all. I don't want to rope someone else in and be like, please fill in this gap. You have to do this role. And I want to know that that I can host other people and have interesting conversations, but I don't require it, that I can do things on my own where I need to. I just want more independence. And that's the aim. Interesting personalities to come though. We got Tim wrangling them, and I'll be reaching out, and yeah, we will certainly make this more of a party going forward. Thank you. Boogeyman says, I doubt it. Hold on. I don't even have my button handy, which is inexcusable. Inexcusable for Boogeyman. I always got to be ready. Thank you, Boogeyman. Burnt toast space girlfriend. Just the cross emoji. Thank you for that, and God bless you. Raymond Donovan is gay. Oh my God. Okay. How do I want to navigate this? It's a joke about the prior co-host.
You suck. Fuck you.
It says, to Blonde, you're that F-word, N-word from Empire. A Jussie Smollett reference. Okay. I got to think about how I want to, not that I don't appreciate the Jussie Smollett reference in the joke. It's going to be very difficult for me to navigate these things, to be completely honest with you guys. Not that I think certain things are off topic for jokes or whatever. It's just that I committed myself through both just thinking about this and through prayer that I was not going to do, that I was not going to be angry or vengeful going forward. I'll have to think about how jokes fit into that, because I don't think you're being angry or vengeful. But I guess what I'm saying is, despite my dislike for the way things were handled, I want Blonde to do well. I hope the best for her family. I don't want this to be like a roast production of her all the time. So I guess with my qualifier there, that's what I'll say. I just want to be beyond it. But I suppose this is it's like I just wanted to be beyond the Matt and I once made love bit. Look how that went. So I know the chat is its own animal, and I love you guys. I don't want you to feel like you can't say certain things. So anyway, thank you, Raymond. He also says, you cucked in your principle of never changing your thumbnails. Can't watch the show anymore. No integrity. Let me tell you how to run our show. I love you. Please don't hurt me. No, you're right. I feel like that's an area in which I've been lazy for a long time, so I need to take the effort of at least trying with thumbnails, though, of course, I'm no graphic designer. Maybe I can hire one to do them on a regular basis in the future, but I appreciate that. Seagram's Gin with absolutely incredible support for the show. Oh, my God.
Oh, my God, bro.
I appreciate that tremendously, and thank you for all you're doing for the show, man. I really appreciate it. And it is my purpose to earn it, and I will do that. Dangerous Spaces. Hey, that's my call screener. What are you doing? Oh, wait, I'm doing the Sunday roll. Thank you, Dangerous Spaces. Likes to watch. Hey, Matt, were there any topics you wanted to cover last week that got overshadowed by the woman doing woman stuff? Also, are the Matt and I once made love jokes being retired too? Thanks and take care. Well, as you can tell, I can't police my own chat. But yes, really, the thing I wanted to talk about the most was the McDonald's stuff. Just what an incredible moment in American culture that I wish I could have commented on, because you had Trump, like, just the way they tried to discredit it. Actually, he didn't really work at a McDonald's. It was shut down. That wasn't real. That was all staged. And then all of it in the specter of Kamala's lie about working at McDonald's. There's an update on that in a little bit. That they still can't... They have not been able to substantiate that she worked at McDonald's. Just show us the evidence. So this great moment of Trump being a man of the people at McDonald's takes place in the context of Kamala claiming to be that, but totally unable to substantiate it. And if she had the evidence, of course, she would provide it to seize that moment from Donald Trump, but she couldn't because it didn't happen. Just what an amazing moment in American campaigning. That was the one thing that got away from me last week that I really would have liked to talk about, but couldn't. Jimmy James says, I simped once for these aren't Sunday ones, Jimmy James. Thank you for the show, or thank you for the support for the show. I appreciate it. Lead Rush, hopefully when without Blonde, we can lose the gripers. She can be funny to laugh at, but her hate speech was very cringe. Racist jokes work when they're funny and true, not based on animus. God bless. Well, I certainly, I'm not going to add commentary to that because I said it all last week, but I appreciate your support, Led Rush, and thanks for sticking around here. Jimmy James says, please read my other rants. Oh, there you go. Okay, that's how you do it. He says, I simped once for She Who Shall Not Be Named. I don't live with regret other than that one moment I once sent money to the Nigerian prince. I should have been more N-wordly, but I heard you say an historic. Historic does not begin with a vowel. Fight me. You know, I like to do that because it's a debate among grammar Nazis. Is it it sounds so silly to me to say an historic. And I think if you had to challenge me to pick a side, I think ahistoric is actually correct. Not ahistoric as in non-historic. It is a historic event. That's what I'm saying. So if I was just speaking naturally as I would, that's how I would say it. But because people try to sound sophisticated with an historic, I like to say an historic. It's funny, and it causes people to get upset. Thank you, Jimmy James. Corwaz says Fallick-Wang probably favors penis removing healthcare too. What a dick. Yes, I'm sure she's in favor of such things. James Johnson, YouTube regular videos and YouTube shorts have different algorithms, meaning that you might be able to bypass YouTube shadow banning by uploading clips from your streams and videos through YouTube shorts. I've heard that. I don't know. Maybe speaking of paying people to do tasks I don't want to do, that would be one. I have no interest in trying to appease the shorts algorithm because it's work I don't want to do. It's also not the way I want to present content. I don't want to be this like viral clip guy. That's not what I'm trying to do. So I just don't care about appeasing. Plus, that's like, to me, that's not what YouTube is. Okay. It's not TikTok. It's not Snapchat. YouTube was born and built on a different style of content. I wish they'd commit more seriously to that content rather than what they think is the viral thing of the day. Don't make me reach back. Thank you for supporting the show. Dangerous Spaces, looking at the Trump rally on Twitter. Oh, Dangerous Spaces. This is another one. You got me. Thank you for your support for the show. Financially and otherwise. Mostly otherwise, by doing the jobs I don't want to do. And of course, anyway, thank you, Tim. Let's see. Over on Odyssey, and I'm going to get to you guys on YouTube and Tippy momentarily. Thank you for your patience there. Over on Odyssey, Matt, do you think you might review some episodes of shows or miniseries? Nah, entertainment reviews are in the past for now, but maybe they'll come back some way in the future. Alt White says, sorry for your recent loss of a co-host, Matt. I wish you and Blonde both the best in your future endeavors. Well, you as well. Thank you for your support for the show. It is hugely appreciated.
We love you. You're very special.
Blankets also says, would you ever go on the Joe Rogan show? I mean, how could I refuse if I was invited? Yeah, of course. I wouldn't expect that invitation anytime soon, but of course I would drop what it is that I'm doing and I would head on out. Also asks Matt, do you have a favorite moment from Orange Man being on the Joe Rogan show? Well, everyone loves the whale thing, and it is funny. But I also like, as I mentioned, I like the discussion about tax structure on a serious policy note. Okay, over on Tippy and YouTube, AP says, Matt, glad you're back this week. Keep up the great work. Take my money. Well, thank you for your support for the show. Appreciate that. Got to refresh and scroll down here a minute. Long Dong John says Trump's pulled ahead of Kamala in national polls when Hillary led by 5 points in 2016 and Biden by 7 in 2020. What do you think will happen if Trump wins both the popular vote and the Electoral College? Can't watch live, so have a great show. My Snow. Well, he called me a K word, but I don't know. I guess we can say that one. Although it's with an A now. My Snow. Kaniga. Frankly, I'm worried about what's going to happen here because Trump appears to be the campaign with all the energy, all the momentum. Trump is the unstoppable force right now, but there's the immovable object. You can't tell me that Democrats don't have a plan for this. That if Trump miraculously somehow wins on, I assume it won't be on election night, but let's say like November 6th, 7th, 8th, we get some sort of decision based on final tallies from states, that they don't have a plan to stop that. And maybe they do like the actual refusal to certify the vote. Maybe they January 6th for real. I don't know. I don't know what they plan to do, but there is no world in which these people allow this guy to just win the election, walk into the White House, pardon himself of at least the federal crimes they're trying to go after him for, and probably find a way out of the state prosecutions too. in some way, shape, or form, they have to have a backup plan for that. And whatever their backup plan is, I'm very worried about. But of course, I'd rather see what it is they have up their sleeve than see them just install this woman into power and have our country suffer for it. So it's going to be a very interesting couple of weeks. That's for sure. Colton Regal says, apologies for being late about this. I was on the road last week. Sorry for your loss, man. I've had 3 close friends betray me like that. It's something awful. Yeah. It's in the past and it's a new opportunity. So thank you for your encouragement. And of course, all the best to you, Colton. I know you faced your own challenges and I hope you're getting through them. Spark Chaser Bear says, can't watch live, but look forward to watching tomorrow. Great to have you back. I've been watching since 2017 and last week was a gut punch, but you're awesome and will thrive. Well, thank you for keeping the show operational, Spark Chaser Bear, and God bless you. Rod Bischoff was hoping that bitch Harris commits Kamalicide. Here's hoping that bitch Harris commits Kamalicide on Wednesday, November 6th, 2024. Okay. Man.
Jeez.
Hillary, it's Arkansas, and Hillary will do it. But, we'll find out then. Florida Man, thank you for supporting the show. Ryan Crowley, thank you as well. For now, I'm going to stop at Mike DeWine's shit-eating grin. Got your back, bud. I hope you remembered to change your passwords. Yeah, thank you for the reminder and for the encouragement. Without saying too much, I'm a man concerned with security in many respects. Yes. Thank you for the reminder and your encouragement. I appreciate it. All right, let's get back into the news. And because there's the whole Kamala side of all this. We talked about what's going on with Trump this week. Let's get into what's going on with the Kamala campaign and the Joy campaign we've had for the last X amount of weeks or months. I guess that's over. Now the emphasis is fear. Don't vote Trump because he's actually Hitler, guys. We know that we said that in 2016 and we said that again in 2020. And yeah, it was a lot of crying wolf, but this time we're serious. He actually is Hitler, or at least very much likes Hitler. Please, bro, you got to believe us. He loves Hitler. That is effectively the op-ed, or it's not an op-ed from him. It's a story by Michael Schmidt in the New York Times on Tuesday, discussing with former White House Chief of Staff under Trump, John Kelly. And John Kelly is saying things to the effect of, oh yeah, when I was in the White House, Donald Trump talked about how much he loved Hitler all the time. Secretly ran the Hitler fan club. He said Hitler did some good things too. He said Trump wants military generals just like Hitler had, because Hitler had very loyal military generals, blah, blah, blah. Not like we haven't heard iterations of that story a million times. But to show how desperate these people are, we're not just rolling out the Trump is Hitler tired nonsense. But now we've got a new accuser too. He's pervy Hitler. He's not just Hitler. He's pervy Hitler. He's ass-grabbing Hitler. He's actually titty-twisting Hitler, according to this accusation. This week, a former model named Stacey Williams says Trump touched her in an unwanted way after Jeffrey Epstein introduced her to Trump. All of this allegedly in 1993. Williams says she believes it was all part of a twisted game between the men. And again, it was all part of an actual titty twister, too. She says Trump grabbed her boobs a few times after meeting, after the two met, and her butt, too. It was T and A. And the grabbing actually happened a few months after they met. She says she was out on a walk with Epstein and they stopped by Trump Tower to see Trump. Now, what is the evidence that this actually happened? Well, this woman is in possession of a postcard that Donald Trump sent to her in 1993, apparently from Palm Beach. And it says, Stacey, you're home away from home. Love, Donald. There's no mention of the titty twisting on this postcard, but I guess it's implied that maybe it happened because they had some sort of relationship in which sending a postcard would be appropriate. Now, Williams made these allegations on a call on Monday for a group called Survivors for Kamala. So this is explicitly political. She's not just coming out and saying, I want justice. She's part of a political Kamala supporting group. And they're not stopping there. Speaking of Survivors for Kamala, They don't just have Stacey Williams, this former model. Democrats have also introduced a very obscure elderly woman. Maybe she's not that obscure. Maybe you've heard of her before. She's new to me. And she says that Trump groped her the better part of a century ago, actually.
And I've never spoken of him until now. Not to anyone, not even your grandfather. A woman's heart is a deep ocean of secrets. But now you know there was a man named Donald Trump, and that he groped me in every way that a person can be groped. It's been 84 years.
Maybe she threw the postcard into the ocean along with the heart of the ocean jewelry or whatever that was. I had to cut up that clip to avoid the wrath of the Titanic music copyright holders, so excuse kind of the weird presentation. But that bit is from Steven Voiceover on Twitter. He works for the Quartering, I guess. Well done. That was very funny. I enjoyed that this week. Now, of course, the Democrat strategy usually is rolling out the red carpet for celebrities. Now, there was a little bit of that at the Donald Trump rally, too. Democrats do that to the nth degree all the time, though. This time they may have messed up. At least people are kind of angry about it, it seems. Because all week long, it was advertised that Kamala was going to host a Beyoncé performance at her Houston rally because Beyonce's from Houston or lives in Houston or whatever. Beyonce's going to appear at this Houston rally. And Beyonce did appear, but the performance that was advertised was not musical. It was just Beyonce walking out onto the stage and talking for a couple minutes. It is alleged that the Kamala campaign paid Beyonce millions of dollars for this brief appearance. I'm not sure if that's confirmed, but that's what I see people saying. And Beyonce said, it's time to sing a new song. And then she did not, in fact, sing a new song. It's also unclear how there's a metaphorical new song if Kamala Harris is in power now. The only brief Beyonce appearance caused something of a stir at the rally. Apparently, some people started booing. Kamala was interrupted. Now, unclear whether this booing is for the Beyonce trick or, people might have been heckling because of that. And then people are booing the hecklers, whatever's going on. You had disorganization and some low-level chaos at the Kamala campaign. Or the rally, not the campaign. You get what I mean. And remember, this is the second Beyonce trick, actually. They did the same thing at the DNC in August. Remember that one? Rumors circulated. Beyonce is going to perform. I'm hearing that Beyonce is in the house and she's going to perform tonight. And then she didn't. She didn't even show up. And supporters of Kamala who love Beyonce, they've now fallen for the same trick twice. But speaking of the same trick twice, there are pieces of the 2016 campaign and the 2016 script that are now reemerging. So remember back in 2016, Hillary Clinton had this famous video rant in which she said, well, having said all that, why aren't I 50 points ahead? As in, I'm so clearly awesome and Donald Trump sucks so bad. How can we even believe that I'm not way ahead in this campaign?
Now, having said all this, why aren't I 50 points ahead, you might ask?
Yeah, that moment. And who could believe that that level of shrillness wasn't well received by the American voter, and she went on to be defeated? Well, Michelle Obama joined Kamala for the first time since the convention, and this at Kamala's rally in Kalamazoo, Michigan yesterday. And Michelle Obama is saying nearly the same thing. Well, how is it that Kamala is not winning easily? Implicitly, it must be because you hate black chicks or Indian chicks or whatever it is Kamala wants to be today.
I got to ask myself, well, why on earth is this race even close? I lay awake at night wondering what in the world is going on. And it's clear to me that the question isn't whether Kamala is ready for this moment, because by every measure, she has demonstrated that she's ready. The real question is, as a country, are we ready for this moment?
Okay, this is a tip for any campaign from a guy who has no experience in high-level campaigning, but does have experience with being a voter and understanding what is persuasive. If your message is our candidate is perfect, it's just you who sucks, you're going to lose. And you deserve to lose because it's the politicians who serve us. We don't serve them. Wise not to forget that, because you will eventually get reminded if you forget. The Kalamazoo rally at which Michelle Obama was speaking, it got a little bit feisty because of Israel-Hamas war reasons. Now, of course, Biden has had trouble with Muslims in Michigan because of his support for Israel. Kamala's getting a little bit of that too. Her speech was interrupted by a heckler demanding that she stop supporting Israel.
We are fighting for America's future, and we understand the opportunity we have before us to turn the page on the fear
And yeah, that's just one guy or maybe a small group. It's not necessarily representative, but Democrats may have a serious problem with Muslims in Michigan. Remember, there was a significant number of uncommitted votes against Biden in the primary. They actually sent uncommitted delegates to the convention over the summer. Now you have Muslim leaders in Michigan endorsing Trump. Yesterday, Trump held a rally in Novi, Michigan. Several local Muslim leaders endorsed him because primarily they believe that he can stop the war in the Middle East. Trump has also been endorsed by the mayor of Hamtramck, the only Muslim majority city in the country. Now, of course, I would personally be careful about presenting Muslim endorsements as some big win. I don't necessarily think the enemy of your enemy is necessarily your friend. I just present this information in terms of what it means for the election. It's not to say that an alliance with Islamic culture is necessarily a good direction for the country. But I do believe that this Muslim backlash against Kamala in Michigan may prove to be electorally consequential. We'll find out. But speaking of bad directions for the country, abortion. Unless you talk to Katrina Fallick-Wang, in which case it's a very nuanced issue. But I tend to believe that it's a bad direction for the country as someone who was formerly pro-choice. But Democrat voters rabid to protect it at any cost is certainly bad for the country too, especially when it's at the cost of the country itself. At this Houston rally with Beyoncé, Kamala had several abortion doctors on stage to talk, about how important it is that we kill more kids. At one point during the rally, someone in the audience had a medical emergency, which happens. You see it at these political events quite frequently. But all the doctors on the stage started looking around for a doctor to help this person.
Necessarily becoming ill and dying. Nationwide, I think someone needs some medical assistance over here.
See, you know they're real doctors because they wear lab coats and stethoscopes in non-medical environments like this one. You just see doctors walking around the grocery store in their lab coats or at the post office or around town. That's how you know who's a doctor and who's not based on the lab coat. Now, in fairness, of course, these people, they might be real doctors. I don't know. And I understand if they're on stage, they might not be in the best position to help. I get that's a dynamic of what's going on here. I just think the image of quote unquote medical experts on the stage requesting medical expertise from somebody else is hilarious. And obviously not a good look for the campaign. But in another hit to the Kamala campaign, the Washington Post has now refused to endorse a candidate. They endorse nobody this election cycle, reportedly at the decision of Jeff Bezos himself. This, according to 4 sources with knowledge speaking anonymously. It was Bezos's call. The Post published the decision on Friday through CEO William Lewis. The decision not to endorse, Lewis says, is to return to the paper's roots of non-endorsement. They want to be independent. They want to be nonpartisan. It could also be because the Democrat candidate is total garbage. You be the judge. The Washington Post has endorsed the Democrat candidate for president every election since Carter in 1976, with the one exception of 1988. 1988. Did I say that weird? But during that cycle, the Washington Post also endorsed nobody. But the Washington Post has actually never endorsed a Republican presidential candidate in the history of their publication. So not endorsing Kamala is kind of a big shot. And obviously it's not an endorsement for Trump either, but that's got to be seen as net Trump gain, because a major newspaper endorsement that was expected has been rescinded, and they don't even have the decency to say why. At least, well, I guess they do, but come on, everybody know. Does anybody really believe it's because we're returning to our roots of being an independent, nonpartisan paper? Okay. Have you read your editorial page recently? How does that fit into the plan? Anyway, the decision has made leftists and progressives very angry. Keith Olbermann posted a screenshot of his subscription cancellation from the Washington Post on X. Mark Hamill, he's done too. The old Star Wars man won't be reading the Washington Post anymore. Now, unclear where these guys are going to go, where they think they're going to go if the Washington Post is too far right to be their news source. But good riddance. God bless you. Hope you find what you're looking for. The Washington Post decision follows another significant non-endorsement from Kamala's home state paper, the LA Times. The owner of the LA Times, Dr. Patrick Soon-Shiong, also decided not to have his paper endorse this week. He says he doesn't want to worsen deep divisions in the country. That decision not to endorse actually caused 3 members of the LA Times editorial board to resign. 200 staff members sent an open letter demanding an explanation as well. The LA Times likewise has endorsed presidential candidates since 2008. My understanding is always endorsing Democratic candidates in those election cycles. The owner denied that his position has anything to do with the Israel-Gaza war. But yesterday, his daughter released a statement publicly saying, no, actually, we reached a decision as a family. And his daughter's a progressive political activist. It says, we decided not to endorse Kamala because she continues to support Israel in its war in Gaza. So you got what's going on with the Muslims in Michigan. You got what's apparently going on with the LA Times family out in California. You got a lot of sheepish support for Kamala at best, and perhaps outright walking away from her. But by far, the most cringe moments of the Kamala campaign, even though there were plenty this week, as there are in every week, the most cringe moments, in fairness, were not actually from her campaign itself. They were from people associated with it or in support of it, but not necessarily from the campaign staff themselves. They're going to get worse as we go. Or at least, well, there's really only 2. There's this one and then there's the porn one, but the next one is tough. Anyway, this one's tough too. It's what kind of psychopath screams at a child in this way? We're still trying to find out. There's this viral moment outside of Kamala's Houston rally on Friday in which a woman, now there are claims of her identity. I'm not going to name her because I'm not sure that these claims are correct or verified. I don't want to go accidentally doxing someone. I just don't want to participate in that. But this person is alleged to be a paid staffer of the county Democrat Party in Harris County in Houston in Texas there. If her identification online is correct, she's some sort of paid party staffer or party activist, that sort of thing. And she's screaming in the face of a small child in front of her dad outside of Kamala's Houston event. And it's unclear exactly what the nature of the conflict is. It sounds like it's some sort of dispute over abortion. It's hard to tell exactly what she's saying. But here's the moment with Kamala supporters around this young lady trying to calm her down and stop her from screaming in this child's face. Okay, you know it's bad when even Shanique was like, okay, calm down, that's enough. And that's what happened there. I don't know about you guys. I heard, I don't give a fuck and your dad's a bitch is what I heard her yell. But I don't know exactly what she's yelling there. Now, obviously, in fairness, we have a limited image of what happened there. We don't know exactly what led up to that. We don't know what her side of the story is. It's hard for me to imagine what side of the story could explain walking up to what appears to be like a 3-year-old girl in a stroller and yelling profanities in her face. It's hard for me to understand what the side of the story would be that would make that understandable. But again, this is a party that appears to be fresh out of joy, and the supply did not last very long. In other desperate pro-Kamala moves, recall Kamala's claim that she worked at McDonald's in California in the 80s, but has never provided any verification or evidence that she did. Well, this week, Kamala, a Kamala supporter, this didn't come from anybody with the campaign or the candidate herself, just some random person shared on X what is allegedly a photo of Kamala in her McDonald's uniform in the early 80s. See, that settles it. And some pro-Kamala accounts shared the image as proof that she worked at this McDonald's. But even in the source, it was never stated where the image came from or why Kamala herself would not have shared this image. And the reason is because it's fake. It's not real at all. It is an edited image of a woman named Suzanne Barrier, I believe is her name. She's Canadian, or was. The photo was taken from a website dedicated to a family's personal photos. So they just like raided someone's family photo album online, found an image of someone in a McDonald's uniform in that era, and put Kamala Harris's face on it to try to deceive everyone. Now, the woman who is actually depicted in this photo, she died of cancer in 2007. So it seems distasteful, but Democrats are once again harvesting the dead for their political power. I suppose that's actually right on brand. And I mentioned this particular development this week. It's not screaming in children's faces. It's not stealing old photos of dead ladies. I would say by far, though, this is the most cringe pro-Kamala moment of the week, and it comes from a pro-Kamala political action committee called the Progress, I think it's a pair of them, the Progress Action Fund and Defend the Vote. And they're, according to this coverage, they're going to air this ad in battleground states. It's called Republicans Rubbing You the Wrong Way. And yes, that innuendo is intended. That is exactly what they're talking about. The ad depicts, can I even show the, I guess. Okay. This guy is depicted in this ad watching porn on his phone and enjoying himself. And then a Republican politician walks in and stops him because Republicans want to ban porn. The full ad, I'm shocked to learn, is actually airable on TV, but that's what they're saying they're going to do. It's not there's no graphic imagery in it, but when the guy's watching, you can hear sounds coming off the phone. So I'm surprised that's like the audio is acceptable in TV advertising. I've cut out the worst part. Obviously, I'm not interested in Raju Mohan cracking down on me for these people, but of course, like this show, it's not necessarily safe for work, but I don't think you necessarily expect to have that when you turn it on either. So I've cut out the worst part, but this is the rest of the ad. Again, Republicans rubbing you the wrong way.
Oh! Sorry, you can't do that.
What the hell, man? How'd you get in here?
I'm your Republican congressman. Now that we're in charge, we're banning porn nationwide.
You can't tell me what to do. Get out of my bedroom, you creep.
I won the last election, so it's my decision. I'm just gonna watch and make sure you don't finish illegally.
And yes, that awkward stare at the end for too long, that's all part of their production. So they want to appeal to women to have no responsibility and kill their kids. Now they want to appeal to men to waste time actually jerking off instead of building healthy families. If this is what they think of you, you should be insulted. You should be insulted if you're a woman who they characterize in this way, that you would rather watch your entire society crumble as long as you think, well, at least I can kill my kids. That's what's important. Now, a lot of women subscribe to that belief, so maybe it makes political sense. But men, again, this is a campaign that's struggling with men. Apparently, the message for men is it's okay if you watch your entire society crumble. Because you should think, well, at least I can still watch porn and jerk off. And what's the sales pitch here? The sales pitch is, give us power. We'll let you watch all the porn you want. And if that's a winner for you, you need to reevaluate your life. I think even the avid viewer would acknowledge that seems like a loser's mentality. Well, as long as I can still watch porn and beat off. Yeah, you got problems in your life if that's appealing to you. The secret that they're not really even trying to obscure with this messaging, both in the abortion context and in this porn context, is that in family there is power. In family there's support. In family there's independence. In family there's purpose and there's pride and all the things I talked about earlier when I talked about my own family's role in getting me through this particular episode in my life. They want you to embrace the destruction of family through abortion, through porn, or whatever other method, because when you have no family, you give them power. That's the natural consequence. They become your family. They become your provider. They become your dad. You become their servant. And so, yeah, this ad seems like just some silly, ridiculous thing that we're supposed to mock. Its motives are as serious as anything in your life. And that's why they do it. They want all of us to be that guy, this guy depicted in the ad. Building nothing, wasting his time, deferring his responsibility to other people, just sitting around watching porn, jerking off. That's what they want men in our society and in our country to be. We'll see if that brings the male votes that they're supposed to be having trouble with, that they're trying to attract. You know, I do think masculinity is damaged. Masculinity is demonized in this country. I think the state of men is it's in very poor shape, but for reasons that we as men can fix, because it's our job to fix problems in that way. It's our job to be leaders. It's our job to be strong. It's our job to be assertive and to take control of these sorts of situations. Even though I think men are damaged right now, I don't think men look at this depiction and think, yeah, I want to be that guy. I want to be that guy in the ad. I want to make sure Republicans don't bust into my bedroom and stop me from my precious porn time. And the fact that they think that that's appealing to you should do the opposite. They think that, like, as long as you can watch porn, you'll be appeased and vote for them. No, it should insult you to such a degree that you would not vote for them on the basis of any other issue. If that's the vision for your life that they have, you should reject it on that premise alone. But we'll see how it works. Anyway, hey, continuation of the bit as promised. If this show's still going, you know there is hoax hate. At some point, where's here? Oh, come on, there we go. Technical problems aside.
And now the nobody saw it happen, but it's totally a product of Trump's America hoax hate crime of the week.
Ah, shit, it's backwards. You think they'll notice?
In Bremerton, Washington, this is outside of Seattle on the other side of the Sound, there was some episode of family horseplay, some sort of tomfoolery, in which a rope was allegedly placed around a gay kid's neck. And now the father in that family has been arrested and charged with a hate crime, even though everyone involved says it was just goofing around gone wrong.
Do me a favor, put your hands behind your back for me. Video shows the moments Joseph Sweeney is arrested by deputies in Bremerton. He's accused of putting a noose around a 14-year-old boy's neck and tightening it after the boy said he was gay. According to court documents, he assaulted his own 13-year-old son right after.
This is completely ridiculous, because it was not that way at all.
Thorne Tolliver says that he was home when the alleged incident happened.
Yes, a rope was involved with their play, but it didn't get out of hand. And as goes for tightening, there was never tightening.
We spoke with Tolliver's stepson, who's involved in this case. We are choosing to hide his identity.
I thought it was safe.
The court document said that your dad assaulted you. Did that happen?
No, he didn't assault us, and apparently a hate crime happened, but it didn't.
The boy said his biological father was making jokes and playing around with a rope.
And I told him to be careful, and he got it around his neck, making sure that it wasn't tight at all, not to hurt him. and later on he got it around my stomach. I accidentally got it tight because I was scrambling around.
Did your dad put a noose around his neck and tighten it?
Yeah, but he made sure to keep it loose. And I made sure of it too.
Okay, this dad is still in jail on $50,000 bond, or at least was as of this reporting on Tuesday. The incident happened last weekend. So if I understand correctly, this dad, he has a 14-year-old son, and this teenage son and all his friends are hanging around at the house last weekend. I believe this is the house of the teenager's mother. So there's a teenage kid at the center of this. He's at his mom's house. He has a bunch of friends over. One of those friends is this gay kid who was allegedly noosed. His parents are separated, but his dad must be on good terms with his mom because they're both there and they both have their respective girlfriend, boyfriend, spouses, whatever. There were 4 adults present at this incident, and they include the biological mother and father of the teenager who lives in that home and the boyfriend, girlfriend, spouses of those separated parents. So you've got several kids there. You've got 4 adults, all of whom are saying the same thing. Yeah, this was like a weird game, joking around. And I guess like at some point this kid took it seriously, but at no point was there ever like tightening a rope around his neck to strangle him. It was just a stupid joke gone wrong. That's what they're saying. So we'll see if the hate crime charges they've brought against dad stand. But here's the kicker. Even if they don't, they may have him on a gun issue. Because law enforcement went to his home. They arrested him, as you saw in that news coverage. But not only did they get him on what is alleged to be a hateful assault here, they also found a gun in his possession, which he's not supposed to have under Washington state law because he has a domestic violence protection order issued last year in Kansas City. And in Washington state, you're supposed to surrender your firearms for even a domestic violence restraining order or protection order. Apparently he didn't do that. I don't know how that's going to play out in Washington. I don't know if he's going to face a serious charge for that or not, but it is a legal violation. And even if dad gets out of the supposed hate crime in this situation, he might end up in a situation where he's stuck with what could be a serious gun crime, all because of a rope joke gone wrong, a noose joke gone wrong. Well, in addition to that, in Naperville, Illinois, outside of Chicago, a high school football player discovered an undisclosed racial slur written on his locker, and his mom now wants hate crime charges filed against somebody because they don't know who did it, and nobody knows who did it.
The 15-year-old player, seen here in this photo, discovered writing on his football locker, a racial slur written into the front of the door.
I really thought that with my son being on this team and being a part of this team, people wouldn't treat him like that. I mean, it's a team, right?
The teen's mother says she reported the incident to the school, but they have not determined who was responsible for the writing. The boy's mother says coaches have apparently talked to the team about it, but no one has taken responsibility. The school also says it immediately launched an investigation into what it calls an incident of hate speech. Some DuPage County civil rights leaders say that response is insufficient.
Now this kid has to go every day for the rest of his school life into that locker room, as long as he's on that team, or into the school, thinking that they don't care.
The teen's mother says she believes it should be considered a hate crime.
He's being confronted every day by his football team, and I just pray that somebody comes forward and say something.
So the school apologizes. The school launches an investigation. In fact, law enforcement is involved. There's a police investigation too, because the school resource officer, I guess, is an employee or otherwise associated with the police department. So there's a law enforcement investigation going on. All of that, treating this as seriously as you possibly could. The NAACP guy is still out there saying, well, they're not doing anything. I can't believe it. That kid still has to go to school as though nothing happened. Well, what are you supposed to do? You shut down the entire school? What do you want? Do you want them to get a goat and sacrifice a goat at the altar of color to appease you? Short of like falsely accusing someone and throwing that kid under the bus, what more could these people do? The NAACP guy is still going to demand more. And imagine living in Chicago, this is suburban Chicago, granted, but the general area, and thinking the greatest danger to a black 15-year-old is a racial slur on his locker. I would say there are much more significant dangers in his immediate area that he ought to be concerned with, or maybe the community would be wise to address, over did someone write a bad word with a Sharpie on a locker? The mom says, well, he's confronted every day by his football team. People on the football team are confronting him all the time. Who are these students confronting him? What is the nature of that confrontation? Because if you're making accusations, why don't you be more specific? Or is it just that maybe the kid sucks at football and these other kids are like, you suck at football, man. And maybe as a way to get out of this or otherwise punish them, he's going to frame them for some sort of racial slur on his locker, or it could be something completely different. I mean, we know how often, first of all, we don't know what slur was even used. They don't disclose that, but let's assume it was the slur that starts with an N. I am also aware that that slur with the soft A is commonly thrown around as not a term of hate or insult, but a term of endearment. Is it possible that this was just a note on his locker that says, hey, N-word with the soft A, great play last week? We don't know because they won't show us. They won't show us the note. Who knows what it was? Without context, was it threatening? What slur was used? What is the fuller context for this? They won't show us. Anytime they won't show us, you have to be skeptical. Other than, I guess, what we're supposed to believe, which is that the younger generation of the KKK in the Chicago area, they really love football. They just want to protect it from black youth. And so they're making sure that black youth are intimidated out of playing football because the KKK would have it no other way, despite demographic realities to the contrary in football in this country. Anyway, that will do it for the content of the show tonight. You know what? We're an hour 45 in. I think I will save calls for Wednesday. I should probably tell producer Tim. I'm going to tell him right now. We'll save calls for Wednesday, so he knows, and we'll come back to those obviously in a few days, and I'll invite your thoughts on the news and what's going on with the show and all that stuff. Then, it's just been a crazy week and a crazy day, and my brain is tired, so I think I'm just going to close out with chat and call it a night, you guys. I appreciate you giving the new form of the show a shot. Let me start over on Rumble. Let's see. Crumb of Hell. A historic. Last Sunday's show was a historic shit show. Sucked harder than an overzealous street contractor. Will you be setting up a new podcast stream? RHPS is a masterpiece. You suck something F. Was that supposed to be a reference to the tranny who attacked Billboard Chris? Is that what you're getting at? I don't know. Yes, I will try to.
You suck. Fuck you.
I will try to make sure there's no interruption in the podcast feed. That's my aim, but I got to work on that tonight or tomorrow. So if you were subscribed to the podcast feed, in an audio format, in your podcast app, I'm going to try to make sure that that's not interrupted. But if I'm not able to do that for whatever reason, of course, I'll update on my website and I'll update on the show on Wednesday or Sunday. Thank you, sir. Janie McTin, my hubby and I are Gen Xers who love your work. Keep up the good work, and I sincerely hope and pray for continuing success for your business. Well, thank you. God bless you. And prayers for you and your family, too. Yvonne626, you back? I am indeed. We'll see if that's for better or for worse, but I am indeed back. I think we're all set over on Odyssey. That looks good. Let's give let's get through YouTube and Tippy here. Aspiring misanthrope. The old show made me laugh in some of my darkest moments, and it delivered me here. Thanks, Matt. Looking forward to the future. Well, thank you for giving the new production a chance, and thanks for supporting the show. Nathan says, you've had a rough few months, my dude. Glad to see you're staying positive. Always remember Christ is King. Well, thank you, and God bless you. And I intend to follow the path of Christ from here on out. I made that commitment, and I was dead serious about it. And I think it's the path that's going to get me through all of this and on to the future I'm supposed to have. So thanks, man. It's been a few months, that's for sure. But all things considered, my family's healthy. Obviously, I suffered the loss of my dog, but he's a dog. That's what happens with dogs. And it's been. If you would have told me a few months ago, actually, all that tenant stuff will be deleted, your dog will be gone, your co-host will be gone, you'll have to make a new show in a variety of different ways. man, I thought this is going to be a hell of a ride. I predicted chaos going into the fall election season. I just didn't predict that I would be like, a lot of the chaos would be in my own life in that way. But this is, relative to the things that could be happening and that certainly are happening in the lives of others. This is minimal. This is just a challenge I'm supposed to face, few obstacles to navigate, and I'm supposed to push on with purpose to the other side. So I appreciate the encouragement. James Moore says you should bring your wife on as a co-host, or at least try for a couple episodes. She has made a few appearances on the call-in show by voice. I don't think there's any world in which I'm going to bring her on in like a full-time on-camera role for a couple reasons. Number one, subjecting my wife to the internet is just, I don't want to put her up to that, even if she wanted to, and I don't think she does. Number two, I do think that as we've seen, I thought I had a good dynamic last time around. I thought we had a good friendship, and work relationships can get complicated. And I do think a work relationship in a marriage is a dangerous game to play. My wife has important responsibilities of taking care of our children. My role in that relationship is providing for our children, and obviously all the other fatherly things I do too. But we have important and defined roles, and I just I want to win the bread for my wife and my children. I don't want my wife to be like a part of that breadwinning arrangement either. I don't think it's fair to her. She has enough responsibilities, and to ask her to come on and like put in a couple hours of, I don't know. I mean, it could be part-time, I guess, but just to ask her to come provide value in that way, I think is asking her to go beyond the work that she already does, which is tons. I just don't think it's very fair to her. So maybe she'll make an appearance by voice here and there, but I wouldn't expect anything regular. But I appreciate the encouragement. Kaiser and Gilroy, hey, some of the best talking people I've heard fly solo. You'll do fine. Never lose the hoax hate segment. I won't. My town got some publicity after the noose was seen at the Kaiser Clinic here. I think I remember that one. It was there's so many just hanging out in a tree or whatever. Anyway, thank you, Kaiser and Gilroy. Don't worry, Smegma Bukaki, one of the best names in the history of the show in the chat. Don't worry, Matt. Australia will always be here to chortle your balls and talk about the JQ. Well, I guess someone's going to have to now. But yeah, I mean, you guys are... Smegma Bukaki, I know you've called in before. If you want to, how am I going to phrase this? I'm not going to make a pun on your username. I'm just going to say, if you want to call in and talk about whatever you'd like to talk about, you are more than welcome. And all the best to the Aussies down under. Speaking of, concern about influence and power, like I say, the Aussies, they are massively overrepresented in this production. Griff Nizzle, have a spooky background, but no Halloween get up. You've turned into quite a cock tease, Comrade 6. Well, thank you. Yes, it was kind of like a spooky fall vibe tonight. That was intentional. But I sat down, I thought, well, okay, normally I'd do the Halloween intro. And yes, there were supposed to be Halloween costumes. There were supposed to be like Russian agents. It was supposed to be fun. I thought it'd be super weird if I did it myself, so I just scrapped it. But I thought, okay, if I'm going to do the Halloween show, though, now I am going live on Wednesday, and it's not like it's a more formal production that will stay on YouTube. I guess Wednesday is the Halloween show now, so that I got to save the Wednesday. Even though I haven't done the full-fledged intros on Wednesday recently, I guess I have to this time because it's the day before Halloween. So don't worry, I'm not skipping out on the Halloween intro. I love using that Thriller remix with Michael Jackson. It's coming back. It'll just be Wednesday. And we'll have a fun pre-Halloween show. Bocephus. Matt, hi, Blonde. We know you're watching. Also, Matt, maybe after each story, take a call from people that disagree with you. You need pushback. Maybe ask Cassandra McDonald to fill in one night. Yeah, I mean, I agree that it's important to have other voices. And going forward, like, that's going to happen. That format is tough to achieve. Like, if you want to do, okay, this story was just read, here's the guy who's going to come in and challenge, because it's so it's so specific. Someone's got to come in with the counterpoint on that story, and it's all got to be timed up. I think the way I'm going to accomplish that for now is just, we're going to have caller interactions. Callers are free to discuss any topic that's discussed on the show. We'll interact that way. And then going forward, once I get some more personalities in here, hopefully that dynamic will emerge more naturally. Obviously, nobody I bring in is going to agree with me in full. And we'll get more of that back and forth rather than just me talking for a long time. But for now, as in like for the next couple weeks, you get me talking for a long time. So I'm practicing, trying to hold the show on my own. But I take your point. And obviously that's something I'm thinking about long term. Thank you, Bocephus. Alien Skin, thank you. Sergeant Snow Ape, reconcile with Blonde in a few years. I can stomach the end of the professional relationship between you two, but the end of the friendship is a genuine tragedy. I said everything I have to say about that last week, and I'll leave it there. I'm moving on without anger, without a thirst for vengeance. I'm just moving on, and that's what I intend to do. And thank you, Sergeant Snow Ape. I agree. It was a great 8-year run. I'm proud to have had it insofar as it brought me here. So, of course, I look back at it fondly. Benny D, much love. Keep it up. Thank you, Benny. Perfect gentleman. You are high speed, low drag. You're going to be fine, bro. Well, thanks, man. I guess I don't even know exactly what that means, but I gather it's a compliment. I definitely don't want to be low. I don't want to be high drag. I don't want to drag anything down, certainly my own show, but whether you find my individual presentation good or bad or whatever, it's the one thing I don't want to be accused of is low effort. Okay. That's the one thing of all the things. I don't care if people disagree with me. I don't care if people don't like the way I present or the way I look or the way I think or this or that. Just, it's not low effort. I'll tell you that much. You'll never get low effort out of me for as long as I do this. And that is my commitment to you. Thank you, perfect gentleman. Appreciate it. Giraffe Deity, thank you for supporting the show. Mechanical Mercenary, this is the way. Keep moving forward. Your continuation of the show. Well, thank you. It's weird to make the show in what is kind of a discouraged mindset or sort of a pessimistic mindset. Obviously, I'm not going to bring that to the show and like, oh, well, I'm really bummed. And what I'm saying is now my production of this show is basically exactly the same as it was before, but I'm doing it with a different mindset where it's like, there's uncertainty. There's wonder about, will this work? Can I keep doing this? It doesn't impact my motivation because I know that I'm supposed to be doing this in the way that I said. It's just, there are questions swirling my mind as I put this show together that really weren't there before. And it's weird to be in a different mindset while putting this show together. But the point is, you as a viewer should not notice that. You should not notice any difference whatsoever because I've failed you if you do. And I'm going to stay committed to it. I appreciate it. Beatty. Hey, Matt, so glad to see you this evening. I really think it'd be fun to see you have a show and discussion with Bridget Fedesi. I'm aware of her. I don't know her personally. I'd be open to talking to her. In fact, maybe we could have Tim go reach out. But yeah, I'm perfectly open to that. Thank you, sir. Or ma'am. I don't know. Or maybe you're Katrina Fallick-Wang, non-binary queer person. Giraffe Deity says, been a listener for a long time. I've always preferred Blonde to Matt. However, I'm still watching this stream every week. Sorry, Meet the Press. It is the Matt Christiansen show on Sunday. I don't even have that line in there because it doesn't really work because now it's Wednesday and Sunday. And yeah, man, I appreciate it. Obviously what happened, but I understand, like, it's not my expectation that everybody agrees with everything I say. And obviously I believe what I believe, but that doesn't mean it's immune to pushback or counterpoint. Or I like being challenged. Okay. That challenge could come from Blonde. It could come from you listeners in the form of calls. It could come from guests, but in no way do I intend for this to be like the preacher time where I tell you how it is and you just accept it. The whole point, what I'm trying to have people participate in, including myself, is critical thought, and critical thought challenges everything, your own thoughts included. So we're going to go that way long-term for sure. And thank you for giving my new production a chance. I appreciate it. And of course, for supporting it. Bob Terwilliger says, Telwilliger, not Terwilliger, says, we love you, Matt. Well, thank you, Bob. Isn't that Sideshow Bob's name? Bob Terwilliger?
We love you. You're very special.
Pretty sure it is. I'm sorry about all those rakes that you stepped on. N-word, please. Matt, it was rather obvious for quite some time that that lady wasn't pulling her weight. Well, I'll miss her comic relief. It's always been you that brings the substance to the show, and I'm not going anywhere. P.S. Hillary Clinton is a lesbian. Is that established, or is that just speculated? I could believe it.
How dare you?
It would explain Bill Clinton. Well, a lot of things would explain Bill Clinton's disinterest. But yeah, thank you for the encouragement and for giving the new show a chance. I appreciate it. Daniel Yeager says Fallick-Wang and Dick Pound. would make a great couple. I forgot who even is Dick Pound. I would Google it, but that carries risk. So I'll just take the joke at face value. Thank you for that. Gorgeous Mayhem. Racial jokes rule, lol. Build wall and deport migrants. However, Blonde's white only shtick was getting old. Can anyone honestly say they wouldn't trade a based Cuban for a he-she white soy commie? Now, of course, that's a comment that's going to invite all kinds of challenge from a variety of perspectives. To address that point, like, yeah, I would agree with the premise that I think that core values matter more than racial identity, to your point. But I don't think there's any reasonable denying that those things tend to correlate strongly. There's a reason people talk about the black vote. There's a reason people talk about demographic blocks in ways that way. It's because they are strongly predictive of political behavior or political preference. So even though I think that the worldview that I generally believe in would be beneficial for pretty much everybody, I think the more people that adopted a Christian worldview, at least in theme or in origin, that believed in a limited government with the purpose of defending rights, I think that would be beneficial for people of all races. That said, along racial lines, there's not a lot of agreement with that. And you do have to reconcile, I think, with that reality. And I say this as someone who's on your side, Gorgeous Mayhem. I agree with what you're saying. I just think that there are considerations that perspective has to address too. And that's giving as much credit to the blonde side of that issue as should be given. Thank you. Appreciate the support for the show. Knuckle Hunky Buck, after seeing names like Fago, Kaniga, Niggeman, and Fallick-Wang, I'm certain that simulation theory is real. And the supervisor left the office and left an intern in charge of the terminal. Yeah, it is hard. It is hard to believe that those are real names, or like, I don't know. I don't know what I would do. Like, if that was my name, would I change it, or would I stick with I'd like to think I would just stick with my family, because you have to do right by your family. And to just change it is, it just seems disrespectful to your family history. But then again, you're going to go through your whole life with this hilarious name that you can't, it's tough to get around. It's hard to have people take you seriously sometimes. Imperius says, Matt, why didn't you ever tell us that your wife was Jewish? Were you worried about losing your audience, considering most of us are more radical than you? Is that why you've stagnated ideologically? Well, this smear job on my wife that's been going around, I find to be hilarious. And all I will say on this is that if there's like some, and I'm not saying you necessarily, Imperius, I'm saying people who are pushing this idea that like, oh, Matt's wife is behind the censorship effort against blonde. Okay. I don't know who's behind this claim or this story that's circulating. I'm not making accusations. All I will say is, if people believe that first of all, to believe that my wife controlled me into making business decisions is to deny the core of my character. I think everybody who listens to this show, blonde included, knows nobody tells me what to do in that way. But for people who believe this claim that my wife is some secret op that censored this show, ask Blonde why she's been good friends with my wife for 6 years. Ask Blonde why there is deep and important personal communication between the two of them over the course of the last 6 years, sharing baby photos, discussing miscarriages, sharing intimate details of each other's lives. Now all of a sudden my wife is an agent of censorship against Blonde, according to these people, when in fact there was a very close friendship between those two that I believe, and we believe, likewise, was thrown under the bus. So, believe whatever you want to believe about my wife, or like my wife being some secret censorship op or whatever. If you believe that, you're going to have to confront the reality that my wife has been a fan of this show, or the former show, for years and years and years. That's why she's a part of my life. And through that, she became good friends with Blonde. And so I would like the explanation for that from the people pushing this particular version of events. Again, I'm not saying you imperious. I'm saying I've seen this circulated, and I find it to be hilarious because it's so disconnected from reality and what happened. I guess my wife decided at the very moment that Blonde's lack of effort became very apparent. Now's the time to start controlling her views. My wife, the censorship agent, had been fine with Blonde's views for the entire duration of this show. It's only when Blonde decided not to show up and when she overreacted to a business negotiation with Matt that suddenly Matt's wife is the agent of censorship. That's how it all happened. For all 6 years prior to that was just an op to get Blonde to believe that there was a real friendship or something like that. Anyway, that's my thoughts on that particular controversy and iteration of the story. Knuckle Hunkybox says, Matt, please dox your wife so the crazier members of this audience can infer crazy things. That would be smart. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. The people will want to believe whatever it is. They'll want to believe people will believe what they need to believe to confirm their worldview. And I think this is an episode of that. All of a sudden, oh no, it can't be personal responsibility. Even though that personal responsibility was admitted. No, it must be that there's some secret Jewish op that is controlling the whole thing. That's what explains all this. Alternatively, people could take accountability for themselves and be personally responsible. And here's the secret. Whether you think that I'm lying to you or betraying you or something like that, here's the secret. Your life gets easier when you start taking accountability for yourself. Okay? You can say everything I'm saying right now is false. You cannot believe me. You can say I'm a liar. You can say I'm part of some secret. Your life, if you only believe one thing I say, your life gets easier when you start taking accountability for it. Create all the scapegoats you want, my wife included. Your life gets easier when you take accountability for it. Good luck. Purpose of the ages. Blonde, before you go, please read my super chat. Oh, wait, she's gone. Just like my mom. Good job. Jeez. Well, that's usually a dad joke, but I'm sorry about your mom. Good job, Matt. To be honest, today's stream feels identical to the last many months with Blonde's co-hosting. 70 cents on the dollar. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Knuckle Hunkybuck. Tim Walz should be warned. AOC is going to quit the stream without warning and announce it on Twitter. AOC is going to do him dirty too. Yeah. Greg Espinlob says, no. Thank you for supporting the show. Jonathan Prezio says, damn, I really do miss Blonde. It was such a perfect dynamic. I understood she was getting too out there and being too shocking, but I just wish you could bring that back to the show. And maybe there will be ways to do it. But to be clear, it's not that she was too out there or too shocking. As I talked about last week, I value having a certain edge or a certain shock value or a certain spark or a certain comedy to the show. Her departure has nothing to do with any of that. Our conversation had nothing to do with the content of her opinions, which not only have been tolerated on this show for years, but she has been paid disproportionately to her labor to say at my risk that whole time. The discussion was exclusively about her effort level. And only after the fact has it been spun, and I'm not making an accusation against her specifically because I don't know who is doing all this spinning, but after the fact, people on her behalf have been spinning it to say that no, it was actually about it was about matters of perspective or opinion. Well, that's weird considering I put up with those perspectives and opinions. Not just put up, that makes it sound like a negative connotation. I want a difference of view, in the dynamic. So it's something that I wanted to have. Now, because the effort level was totally absent, suddenly I'm an agent of censorship. No. Obviously I'm relitigating things I've talked about before. Thank you, Jonathan Prezios. I appreciate it. The Arctic Travel says the pandering from the Harris-Walz campaign is insane. Why do you think they're converting him? Who do you think they're converting by having him on the stream? Love the show, Matt. Buy a Rust skin on me. I haven't bought, not only am I not playing video games lately, the idea of buying DLC or add-ons, that's been years. But I appreciate it. I'll buy whatever skin you want if Tim Walz agrees to 1v1 me. But yeah, who do I think they're trying to convert? Maybe that's like their male demographic. Oh man, the men love video game streaming. Let's try that. I don't know. Yeah. The youth that are big into streaming, they're supposed to be in their corner. So I don't really get it, but yeah. Walsey Thank you, Arctic Travels. Walsey says, good to see you, Matt. What are your election night plans? I don't want to say exactly what I'm going to do because I never like to promote things until it's certain to happen. I've been invited on a couple. First of all, I'm not going to be live myself. I don't really like doing live election returns, at least for an extended period of time. But I have been invited to a couple different streams, streams you know about. So it'll be exciting when it happens on election night. So I will be tweeting that out where I'll be appearing, and you'll be able to catch me there, assuming all goes to plan. And I'll just pop in on a couple streams and have some words and just enjoy the evening to the extent that it is enjoyable. That's the plan. And then, of course, I'll be back here live the night after on November 6th. Griff Nizzle, geez, man. Simcast. I say this reading the chat ahead of time because. All right. I said I wasn't going to be vengeful. All right. Simcast has 7 women on it, blonde being the least bangable of the bunch, and it has 667 viewers. You're one homosexual man and have 2,750. Matt is most bangable. Confirmed. Well, thank you, Griff Nizzle, if that is a compliment.
I don't want to hear any more of these lies.
Lightweight. As much as it pains me, I must come forward to let everyone know that in 1993, Matt Christiansen touched me inappropriately in a Wendy's bathroom. It was actually on a semi-weekly basis. Well, I was 6 years old, so,
That's disgusting.
I like to think I have an excuse. Justin Brush. Trump's going to ban porn? I think enforcement would be an issue, but still, I think I'm being threatened with a good time. Also, dumb idea for naming the show Matterday Night Live. Matterday Night Live. Well, I appreciate the creativity, but I think I'll pass on that one. Yeah. I mean, the ban porn topic we've talked. I'll leave that. Maybe we can talk about that with callers because I've always had concern going back on the former call-in show about the government having too much power in, say, the creation of messaging. Is porn art? I mean, there's a debate there. I guess what I'm saying is the government having the power to tell you what kind of video you can and can't make. I do think there are legitimate concerns about that. And so I've always, on principle, opposed the idea of the government banning porn. That said, the more this stuff, I hate to have one ad change my mind, and it's not that did, I suppose, necessarily. But as you see the consequences and the further descent into degeneracy, I really have to think critically about whether speech as it expresses perspective is the exact same thing as, say, pornography. Now, I think it's pretty clear, historically speaking, that the framers and the authors of the First Amendment were not really talking about pornography when they were talking about the federal government not being able to restrict your perspective as a matter of constitutional law. Remember, they were writing at a time, too, where the Constitution only applied to the federal government. The states were free to police all these issues as they saw fit, including speech, if that's what they wanted to do. That is the context in which the Bill of Rights was written. It applied to the federal government. And so my philosophy on the relationship between porn, obscenity, and speech, that's something that maybe I need a more critical look at or a second look at, because I'm not, first of all, I don't think that was the constitutional intent. But second of all, just from a moral perspective, are these actually the same thing? I don't know that they are. I want to be careful about empowering the government to go after speech and art forms too much. So anyway, something for me to think about in the long term here. Kaiser and Gilroy, Blonde's podcast partner and I once made love, and just kidding, I'm not gay. In all honesty, don't watch the Simcast. Don't take the bait. I heard that this happened. Frankly, I don't care. I don't care if somebody, and I don't know if they discussed me at all. I don't care. I got stuff to do. I got family to take care of. I got productivity I need to achieve. If people want to talk about me, fair's fair. I mean, there's been discussion on this show all night. So I'm not going to get bogged down by trying to react to every claim made about me or by every smear made against me. I don't know if they did. I'm not saying they did. I'm just saying, people want to interpret this event in the way they want to, and that's fine. They're entitled to that. Guardian Games Studio. Matt, how about a monthly book review? Love to see you get more intellectual with your content since Blonde is gone. In the same way, I'm probably not going to do video or movie or TV show reviews. Yeah, I don't think book reviews are in the cards for now either. But yeah, I appreciated the opportunity to get into an arena in which I don't normally participate, and I think it had some value. So I'm not planning to do it, but of course I would never say never. So, keep it as a possibility in the future. All right. Oil King says the movie reviews were good because you added politics to it. No other movie reviews YouTubers would ever do that. I wanted you to see my movies. Yag, yag, yag. I tooted. Fart, dart, cart, hard, Bart, rart. As always, I have no idea what that means, Oil King.
What the is this?
Walsey says, without Blonde, you need a cuckoo clock on the set, but instead of cuckoo, it should say random slurs. Maybe I could get the spice that way. Knuckle Hunky Buck, has anyone noticed that there weren't ever experts that had to explain that Hitler was a Nazi or that Mussolini was a fascist? Why do so many experts need to attest to Trump being one if it's so true? Yeah, we don't need... It should be a little more self-evident rather than needing all these intellectual explanations of what's going on. Knuckle Hunky Buck also says, if there's a medical emergency in the audience, does the medical emergency happen to be that someone doesn't want to the inconvenience of consequences for their actions? No, sorry, I can't help. Yeah, it seems they deal in a very particular form of medical emergency, and it's maybe a different variety than we traditionally think of the circumstance. Thank you, Knuckle Hunky Buck. Just a hob. You're killing it, man. Love the new look. Much better show already. Keep it up. Well, thanks. I appreciate that. Things will evolve over time, but I hope that it's got a nice presentation to it, and I'll work to improve it going forward. Scarier 3. Don't let them take us back. Male version. You're on point right now. Show is as good as is. Keep rolling. Well, thank you. I'm absolutely will do that. I'm going to carry on and put everything I have into it. Fataku, not that watching porn is good or a laudable thing, but blaming porn for the collapse of society is like blaming the sinking of the Titanic on the lifeboats. Yeah, I wouldn't say that it's uniquely responsible for everything, and I hope it didn't come off that way. But I would say that it is, of course, a distraction of the male energy, the male urge from its intended purpose, which is the creation of family. And anytime you diverge that natural force away from its natural intent and distract it with some waste of time that does not lead to its natural consequence, the creation of family, it is a net loss. It's bad for everyone, including those men. A man without family is a man without his full potential. And I say that with full respect to every man out there who circumstantially is not able to have a family, or you've been really trying, but you can't find the right woman. I'm not saying that you're bad if you don't have family. I'm saying every man ought to be aimed at having family. That should be the norm, the ideal, because it's what preserves society. But just as importantly, it's what unlocks your potential as a man. You should want that, because to have a family and to have children is to know your full potential. Every man should achieve that. And so porn being one of these things that distracts away from a man's ability to achieve that, I think it is severely consequential in that way. Is it the only cause of social decay? No, but I think it's a major contributing factor. Yeah. Holden Mulray, since the movie review is extinct, or at least dormant, it'd be fun to watch, or it'd be fun to know which nominator had the highest score with you and Blonde, and then bring them onto the show to talk movies. Same with the lowest score. It would take a little bit of desk work. Maybe I could hire Tim to do that. I don't even know if we'd be able to contact some of those people, though, because they just had I'd have to dig up their contacts to even get back in touch with them. And some of them were years ago, so who knows if they'd even respond. Theoretically possible, logistically very difficult. Knuckle Hunky Buck, don't make the mistake of considering uncertainty to be a negative mindset. Yeah. A fighter becomes a champion because of fear and hunger. A champion becomes a wash-up because of hubris, because of the hubris of certainty. Yeah, I think there's a lot of truth to that. The challenge I'm experiencing, yeah, it's causing higher levels of stress in my daily life right now. Does that mean I'm suffering and crumbling? No, it means that I'm being more deliberate with my decision making. I'm thinking more critically about what I want to do and don't want to do. Those are good things. And frankly, everybody should have a little bit of challenge thrown into their life sometimes, because that's how you, speaking of finding your true potential and finding out what you're capable of, that's how you do it. So Knuckle Huggy Bunk, a man of comedy, but a man of wisdom too. Thank you, sir. Andrew C. Ask Roger Ailes which side chick always gets bounced after a few years. White famously threatened to quit Fortune because she didn't make as much as Sajak, a Wheel of Fortune, I assume. She literally could have been replaced by a switch. Yeah, probably. I don't know the history of what happened on that show, but yeah. But I don't know. I suppose to many of you out there, the events were much more predictable than they were for me. And that's probably on me, but I'll try to gain some wisdom coming out of it. Griff Nizzle said, thank you, Andrew. Griff Nizzle says, hate having a serious chat, but that's what Blonde and her simps never explained adequately to me. If race is so central to belief, why are whites so varied in both voting habits and philosophy? You know, that is an interesting question. And I don't even say that. It's not like a dismissal thing of the opposing perspective. But when I talk about things like the black vote, when we talk about like using demographic as a predictor of behavior or philosophy, the white vote does have corresponding tendencies, but they're not as dominant, at least when we're talking about political behavior. White people as a group are going to split more evenly between, say, Democrats and Republicans than black people are as a group. Why? Because obviously I think there's some sort of connection between the demographic and the ideology. The question is why, though? Like, what's the explanatory variable there? It's obviously not like, well, it's the skin color that does it. It's something associated with that. What is that trait? Interesting thing to talk about and fair point to raise. Caleb Ramsey, found you through the Tenet stuff, sub because of your work, but rarely watched because of Blonde. Keep up the good work. Would love to hear more about your faith journey as it goes. Well, thank you for the encouragement. You know, this is not like a religion and faith show. It's got some of my own personal life experience in it to the extent I interact with the audience, but it's not my aim to make this that sort of show by focus. If you would like to follow along with my journey into faith and scripture and the Bible and following Christ and all of those things, the weekly Bible study is publicly open and available. You can head to the homepage of my website, mattchristiansenmedia.com/mattis.k. And there's a Bible study link right there. Every Friday at 9 Eastern, we have a Bible study live on a Zoom call. Anybody can come in and participate. We have a lecture from my Bible study leader, Robert, and then we have a group discussion. And it's a great time every week. It's a lot of value in my life, and you'll get a lot more of my thoughts and my Bible study leader's thoughts on scripture and specific teachings of the Bible and following Jesus and all of that stuff. That's where I really keep it. And by the way, you don't have to participate in the live study. It's also a podcast feed. You can find that on the Bible study page of my website as well. You can listen passively each and every week. It's about an hour 15 study each week. Tobian says, commenting on the first stream, and thank you, Caleb. So I can officially say I'm a legacy fan. Now I'm hoping, or now I'm somebody I hope, now I'm somebody. I hope you're proud of me, Mom. Well, I'm sure she is absolutely, she's absolutely thrilled with her son's accomplishments. I appreciate your contribution to the show, Tobian. All right, let's give a quick refresh. We got a couple more on Rumble here. Two Dogs, Mike D. That Hoax hate kid was being scouted by Pittsburgh State, and the locker note was a congratulations letter. Congrats, you gorilla. Thank you for tying the two stories together. That is a great callback. I really appreciate that. Two Dogs also says, it turns out that the medical emergency was just a white dude for Harris in the crowd needing an abortion. Yeah, it could have been that too. We're good on Odyssey. Thank you, Mike. Good on DLive. And just a couple more here on YouTube. We'll call it a night. Sport Nugget says, plot twist, Blonde got the invite to go on Simcast tonight. Last Saturday. Was she like a permanent thing on there? I don't know. But hey, good. You know, all jokes aside, whatever aside. Again, I hope the best for her. If she decides to take on a new project, good luck. I hope success for you and your family. And moving on to bigger and better things. It's not about being petty or being angry or being vengeful. We built a great thing for several years, and here's hoping there's something good on the other side. So Godspeed if she chooses to do that. Brian M. says Blonde was having a postpartum depression midlife crisis. She was getting lost in life. Maybe she did as a child. Let's put ourselves in her shoes. Little woman in an adult body. God bless. I agree. There are things perhaps we should try to be understanding of. But, again, all the best. God bless. Moving on and putting efforts into new projects in the future. Lord Stockingham Puppeton III. Very regal name. Say that Knuckle Hunky Buck. Difficult to pronounce. He's really funny and clever. You should consider having him on the show to replace that other last good day chap. Well, I'm not going to reveal what names I am in discussions with to be contributors to the show, but let's just say I am tuned in to clever contributors from the audience, and we'll leave it at that, and we'll see where it goes. Thank you, Lord Stockingham. Esoterica Unbound. I'm sure it's just a coincidence, but I faded out 15 minutes into the show and awoke to you reading Super Chat. Oh my God. I'm embarrassed into showing you some love before the end. Well, I guess I'll take it. I don't know if that's actually a compliment, but I appreciate the support for the show.
Wow.
I guess I'll have to turn up the entertainment factor if I'm causing you to fall asleep. All right. Thank you, Esoterica Unbound. And Injured Guardian says, I frequently want to ask the anti-natalist, a career is more important than kids, folks. Then who will inherit what you built? Granted, few build much. P.S. Does the watch band unwind into ropes? Well, as I've explained a few times, this watch is very meaningful in my life, actually. I know I'm not. I'm trying to explain what the watch is about. This watch is a holdover from my brother. And in February 2013, I lost my brother in May 2013. But in February 2013, his birthday was Valentine's Day. And so like a week before Valentine's Day, we were living together, and he came into what was my room in the old house. He said, "It's my birthday next week. Give me your credit card." I said, all right. Okay. And I've always been a watch guy. I liked like flashier watches, like, metal watches. It's what I've worn previously. And my brother wanted to get a watch, but he bought a watch from this company that I would buy from. And it was called the Private. And it was like, it was a very military style watch, like a canvas band. And you can see it's black with kind of army green or olive drab detailing. And when I lost my brother, this watch, of course, I did give him my credit card. He bought it. And when I lost my brother and I got the news that night, this watch was still sitting in the on the counter in the kitchen. And I have kept this watch with me ever since. I've worn it pretty much every day since I lost my brother, with rare exception. And it used to have that canvas band on it. That wore out over time. So I've replaced it with a green paracord band that I made to spruce it up a little bit. And that's why the green paracord watch. It is a relic from my brother's life and a reminder, not just a timepiece, because I love analog watches. Don't get to that digital crap. It's got to be an old school analog. But it is a reminder to me every day where I've come from, where I'm going, to live a life that he would be proud of, to give purpose to that loss, and just to carry on a little piece of him with me everywhere I go. That's the story of that watch. So no, it does not unwind into ropes. It's not for noosing people, jokingly or otherwise. It's a keepsake. Thank you, Injured Guardian. Aristotle's Ghost says, Matt and I once made love. He filled the hole in my heart. Too bad its job was to pump blood and, well, I don't know what the and is, but I'll take it. Thank you for the endorsement.
That's disgusting.
Appreciate it, Aristotle's Ghost. All right, I think we're all set, guys. We're good on Rumble, good on Odyssey, just finished up on YouTube and Tippy. We're good on DLive, and we'll call it there. All right, well, hey, greatly appreciated that you decided to show up here on Sunday night and hang out with me once again. I appreciate your live chats. I appreciate your super chats. I appreciate all your live contribution to the show to make the live production a success. Thank you for being here. Thank you for making it a fun time, despite some recent circumstances. If you're listening later on demand, thank you kindly as well for supporting the show. That is greatly appreciated too. Speaking of listening on demand, if you missed any part of the show, you want to catch up with past episodes, I guess this is the first of this one, but you know what I mean. Finding anything podcast related, head on over to the podcast page of my website, mattchristiansenmedia.com/podcasts. You get the video show and the audio show there. Most of all, thank you for giving me another shot to earn your listen. I know that change isn't easy. I appreciate you being here when there's a million things you could be doing otherwise. So I'll be back live Sunday and Wednesday nights going forward. I hope to see you back here then. Have a great night and a great week.